If you're having ghost problems, I feel bad for you, son. I've got 99 problems, but a ghost ain't one. The horrors be out there, but I'm prepared. I got my flashlight, so I'm not scared. No ghosts. Stupid motherfuckers. Not scared of the ghosts. They're stupid motherfuckers. Not scared of the ghoulies. Stupid motherfuckers. Not scared of the horrors. Stupid motherfuckers.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to What Now?
Are you scared of something? What now?
Oh,
what
my goodness. So a giant fingernail came to crush me, and I ran away from that, but then I saw an eye looking through the window, and then I climbed to the top of the house on top of the roof, and a giant boot was coming to smash me, and I just, in my tiny little ant mind, could not comprehend that those were all three the same thing.
Oh.
Anyways, welcome to What Now, a review podcast that's going through the Magnus Archives. I'm your co-host, Joel.
And we opened this episode weird, didn't we?
I mean, I guess.
Do we want to try again? Usually we, talk for a minute, and then we go, welcome to...
Do we?
I think so.
Okay, well, this is your show.
Oh, it is? Okay.
In 3, 2, 1... I've blue screened my wife, which is very relevant to one of the episodes we're going to be talking about shortly.
Listen to me.
Yes.
Has there ever been a door out of this room before?
Oh, shit. I think we've been in a box our entire lives. I think we're just screaming into the void, but the void is...
But there's a door there now.
There is a door there now.
Don't
go through it.
No. We don't go through it.
Okay, question. What if there's a door that you're pretty sure wasn't there before and it opens and just a regular-ass person comes through? Not like one of the doll people that have come to life. They talk like you and me. You don't get a weird vibe from them. They have the right proportions. Do you trust them?
No. Because why did they walk into my house? I'm not going to be rude because it could be a spooky horror, but could also be just the fae. You don't want to be rude to a guest, but I would politely ask them to leave.
Fantastic.
Not going to go through the door with them. Welcome back to What Now? The one show where we know everything is scary all the time, and the only way to escape the fear is to give in to the autism.
Yes, of course. Give in to the autism. If you try to mask, the horrors will get you.
Exactly. Stop pretending to be afraid of things like everybody else. You're stronger than that. I'm your host, Kat, and I appear to be lost in this corn maze. I don't know how a corn maze can have only left turns and you never reach the center and never get to an exit. It doesn't make any sense, but there's a lot of corn. I thought I saw a guy following me a while back, but it's probably just someone else who stopped for the corn maze, right? Right?
Absolutely. Yeah, of course. And I'm your co-host, Joel, and I might sound a little different. And maybe our neighbor thinks that I look different, but I'm the same Joel that I have always been, and you can't prove otherwise. And that's it. I'm here to stay.
Yeah, and also if you've noticed any of our backlog of videos on the channel have just been deleted, they were just, the audio quality was bad.
The algorithm, yeah, they were inappropriate for certain audiences.
Yeah, oh no! I was leaning on the 0 button and I may have replaced an entire line with zeros, but...
That's what Control-Z is for.
I wasn't even in an important slot, so we're safe.
Fantastic. Now, you had an opening bit. Mm-hmm. We have a chat where we talk about what we want to talk about on the podcast. Mm-hmm. And you said, I have a brilliant opening bit. And in our notes, I put it in big bold letters. Do not forget this is our opening bit. But it would appear that our opening bit has evolved into something else.
Well, so here's the thing, okay? First of all, don't see it in the notes. I didn't read the big text. So first of all,
I hope that we keep that in the episode of just me leaning over and being like, what are you talking about?
Yes, but second of all, we were supposed to open with just doing it.
Right, exactly.
And then you opened with, hi, welcome to What Now?
See, I thought we were going to do it with our introductions, hi, I'm Kat. And, there's never been a... Oh. So let's just awkwardly segue into it, because this is comedy gold.
Hi, I'm Kat, and I had a lot of these that were really funny. Hold on. Go ahead.
I'm your co-host, Joel, and there has never been a matcha lemonade at Starbucks.
No, see, in my imagining, this joke was funny because they all rhymed with door.
Huh?
Yeah, if you go back and you listen.
Okay. Okay.
But you're
Hello,
funny.
my name is, I'm your co-host Joel, and there has never been a many Australian shepherds.
I am your host, Kat, and there has never been a YouTube channel.
Also, there has never been a third Mario brother.
Well, that's just true.
Right, that's the point, though.
Oh, you're just saying true
The door,
things.
I mean, kind of, the first two were jokes, but then the third one was, I switched the joke format midway through.
There has never been a coherent podcast host on this show.
If you wanted a podcast with more than one brain cell, you wouldn't be listening to us, and you wouldn't be listening. Okay, you would be listening to other quality.
You can't say us and that in the same.
No, but we are similar in that
You're gonna
neither
bleep
show.
that podcast's name out when you edit this.
Why?
Because I don't want to be associated. I don't want the comments. You're gonna bleep it out.
Anyways, there are other podcasts with only a single brain cell, and why would you be here if you wanted more than one? More than one brain cell gets overcrowded.
Absolutely. Why would you be here if you wanted more than zero?
Right.
You know.
Announcements. Firstly, we're going to try to keep this episode brief, and we are already failing at that mission. We have kind of a tight deadline. It's been a while since we've recorded, but we also talk a lot. And so this episode might come in 2 parts. It might be one long episode and there's like an awkward transition partway through, or we might just be so brief that this is a 10-minute episode. I doubt it.
Unfortunately, we are liars. Womp womp. We said we were only going to watch like the chunk and then record and then watch chunk and record. We did not do that. Joel, what episode number are we supposed to be up to as of recording?
We are covering episodes 61 through 80, the second half of season 2 of the Magnus Archives.
And what episode did we just finish listening to in the car?
We listened to them on your phone, so I don't know, but I think it was 113.
It was 113.
So we're coming up on the end of season 3, so we have 3 episodes worth of information. Another announcement, I thought that was going to be announcement number 3. Announcement number 2, if you listen to our first episode, I had the premise of like a fan fiction. And I actually wrote a first draft of it, and I'm part of a writer's group. We meet once a week, and we go, hey, here's what I wrote. What do you think? And I presented it, and I got some feedback. And one of the members of this group, so there's some of them hadn't ever heard of the Magnus Archives or hadn't started listening. And I told them what's really fun is if you get information from later in the series, it's interesting to go back and listen to earlier episodes. For example, we just listened to episode 113, and it has a callback to episode 10. So I said, it's really cool if you have future knowledge or if you've gone through the series once and you go back and you watch it from the beginning. And one of these real-life people said, oh, I've only listened to it the first time. I got to the end where blank. So I have knowledge of how this ends. If it ends with Elias Bouchard and Martin making out while John watches from afar.
Oh no, John's ex-wife and his son?
Yeah, absolutely. This is a weird family tree. If that happens, I might giggle a little bit every time you're like, man, I hope Elias dies, or I hope that he never kisses another man. But that sort of a thing. So, yes.
And I want to be just crystal clear. I am so angry at this person. I hope every time they go to unlock their front door, they fumble with their keys just a little bit and have to do it like 2 or 3 times. And if you come into our comments and you do something like that to us, I will personally wish this specific, just generic ill upon you. It won't be something bad. It won't be something you can farm for pity from your friends, but it will be tiny inconveniences every day for the rest of your life.
I hope every day you're woken by your dog farting loudly.
Yes, that's what we're talking about.
That's what we're talking about.
But the dog is fine.
Our commenters on Magnus Archives have been lovely and supportive. The FNAF fan base is a little bit more combative and opinionated, but I would say that they're still mostly respectful overall.
Here's the thing about spoilers, okay? They've done research or whatever, and they've found that spoilers don't actually affect your enjoyment of a thing. But I like to solve the puzzle by myself, and I feel like something has been taken from me when I'm not allowed to do that. And if somebody did that to me, I probably wouldn't be this mad, but I have a righteous fury in me that burns anytime something offends you. And so somebody doing that to you makes me angrier than if it had happened to me.
You know what's funny, though? I wasn't that upset about myself. It's a piece of information that doesn't really affect a lot of the other mysteries. However, I am trying really hard to get some of those writers to listen to this podcast, and I think it's really good, and I think that knowing the last thing that happens, or the thing that happens in the last episode, I think that might discourage them. On the topic of spoilers, though, a lot of times having something spoiled for me can make me more interested in watching a thing. That's how we got in the Magnus Archives.
I was about to say, yeah, the list of the horrors, we were like, that sounds fun.
Oops, this episode's going to be longer than 10 minutes. We've officially crossed that threshold. That's an update.
Is there an entity, capital E, associated with not knowing time? Would that be Michael McTwisty?
That would be Michael McTwisty. Oh, yes, that's another thing. So there are two Michaels that are very important so far in this series. And spoiler alert for something that happens in season 3, but they find a way to differentiate the two characters. But when I was listening to these episodes, anytime I needed to text you ideas for what we talk about on the podcast, I just call him Michael McTwisty to differentiate him from Michael McSkydaddy. So anytime we're referring to Michael McTwisty, that's the, hello, Archivist, I'm so twisty. Would you like to go through a haunted door?
Absolutely.
Yeah. So I think those might have been all of my announcements. I bet I remember one partway through this episode. And
That's
I go,
okay.
Oh, shit.
If you go, oh, shit, and you scream out your announcement into the heavens, I will not be mad. Okay. Are you taking the reign on Succinct Summaries this week?
Another thing that I've started to do, we're covering episodes 61 through 80. I already said that. So if you're listening and you've only gotten to episode 72, what are you doing? Finish the season. In episode 80, we find out that there are specific entities that are behind each of the horrors. And I already knew that. That's entirely what Haley Whipjack's video is about. But there is a new column in our little Excel spreadsheet. Wait, where is it? Oh, right there. It's early. Anyways, it's Whomsd'tve the horrors. And some of these are obvious. Some of these are I don't know. So if I don't know, I'm going to say, I think maybe it's this horror. And if you think something else, you can let me know.
Absolutely. And are you going based off of foreknowledge or the list that you had when we listened to these episodes?
Yeah, we're going to try to keep the listeners updated as to what our current thoughts and theories are.
Okay.
That's why we have a section in our notes app called, what do we think the horrors are right now? What evidence do we have that these horrors exist? Okay. Episode 61, Hard Shoulder. Daisy gives her statement. She met Brecon, Hope, in the creepy coffin. This episode is brought to you by The Haunted Circus and or The Strangers That Mean You Harm.
Can't believe you didn't go, my boys!
My boys. Episode 62, First Edition, Mary Kaey gives her statement. Book's haunted and contains dead people. The Whomsd'tve is literally called out as death/the end. The end of the tunnel, a man explores some caves. The shadows are weird and his friend dies. It's not caves, it's hallways. It's a corridor underground. It doesn't matter. And the enemy here is darkness. Episode 64, Burial Rites, Daddy, Meet Mummy. And I put Whomsd'tve the horror's death probably? I mean, I guess. It's a thing that doesn't die.
The real horrors were British imperialism all along.
Absolutely. Episode 65, Binary, the merging of man and computer. And for me, Whomsd'tve the horror, without any foreknowledge, is meat. I know for a fact that season 4 Q&A has this question, what was the entity in this episode? And he answers what he thought, what he intended the horror to be, but he was like, I guess you could read it as a couple of others.
I'm very curious to talk about that, but we'll get through our...
Episode 66, Held in Customs. A custom agent gets stuck in a box. The monster for that is claustrophobia. Episode 67, Burning Desire. A man dates Agnes Montague.
Wait, you mean...
Yes, that one. And Whomsd'tve the horror, fire demons, obviously, the cult of the lightless flame, I think. Episode 68, The Tale of a Field Hospital. Haunted book, Sickness Edition. And the Whomsd'tve the horrors is disease, but that's closely connected to the bugs. I don't know what you would prefer to call them. Episode 69, Thought for the Day, Spider Summoning Ritual Pretending to be Science.
I am in academia, and I just want you to know that's real. That's what all science is. All science is conducted by spiders.
Okay. Whomsd'tve the horror, spiders. Episode 70, Book of the Dead, a book foretells your death. They are always gruesome. Whomsd'tve the horrors, death, duh.
Yeah.
Episode 71, Underground, a haunted train is going to squeeze you tight, not in a fun way. And that's Whomsd'tve the horrors, it's more claustrophobia.
A lot of meat in this one. Sorry, I'm reading the next one at a time.
I think death is the big one.
Well, death is coming up a lot, too. I guess meat hasn't come up that much. I don't know. Anyway.
Episode 72, Takeaway. A takeaway food place was selling human meat and is still haunted by Tom Hahn. Han is how they say it. Right. Sorry, it's been a while since I've listened to this episode. I just have the written notes. Whomsd'tve the Horrors? More meat. Episode 70.
Say it like John.
Meat. More meat. Always more meat. Episode 73, Police Lights. Basira, yes, that one, faces Maxwell Rayner. Yes, that one. Whomsd'tve the Horrors? Darkness. Episode 74, Fatigue. An extreme case of insomnia, and Michael McTwisty is here.
Oh, are you tired?
Ooh.
You should take a sleep.
Whomsd'tve the Horrors, It Which Lies, and or Madness, and or The Spiral, and or The Arcing Deceit.
It Which Lies.
Such a hard line.
So badass, yeah.
The Spanish language can do some really cool stuff with verb tenses. Episode 75, A Long Way Down. A man with a fear of heights is whisked away by Michael Crew.
Well, that's just rude.
Whomsd'tve the Horrors, I'm going to call it Heights / Big Spaces.
So you think this is the same as, like, the ocean one?
It's the Fairchild one. Yeah, exactly. There's technically a name for this entity, and you've technically heard it, but they didn't look at the camera and say, it's this thing. So I'm hiding that a little bit. Episode 76, The Smell of Blood. Melanie King, yes, that one, found a haunted rail car occupied by... So I put crazed medic. I don't think it's a crazed medic. I think it's the patient that's haunted, and the medic is trying to keep it, locked away.
Interesting.
There's something haunted in that rail car, and there's a lot of blood. Whomsd'tve the Horrors, I put War. The Kind Mother, a woman's mother is replaced and kills her father. Whomsd'tve the Horrors, Strangers That Mean You Harm. 78, Distant Cousin, a man's cousin is replaced, but someone comes and seals the imposter away. I almost said steals.
There's something interesting we get from these two episodes that we'll want to talk about.
Right. This is, again, the Strangers That Mean You Horror. Strangers That Mean You Horror. That Mean You Horror. Episode 79, Hide and Seek. John unleashes Not Sasha. Whoops.
John, you f***ing idiot.
We're going to talk about it. That's Strangers That Mean You Harm.
Do you want me to do a rant that's just John Sims, the archivist, is a goddamn weenie?
Absolutely, but I'm not editing the video this time. Episode 80, The Librarian, Statement of Jurgen Leitner.
What?
Yes, that one, in fact. And I don't know if there's necessarily a horror in this one because it's just talking, but if there is a horrific event, which there is probably the eye.
A mouth opened up in the man's floor.
Okay, yeah, so that's why there's two horrors. In present day, the horror is the eye, but in the statement, the horror is literally all of them. If you've seen One Piece, spoilers for the Marineford arc, but that was released like 15 years ago, it's the scene of Blackbeard afraid that he's going to die, and he tells his entire crew to jump Whitebeard. Except this time, it's each of the horrors coming for that ass.
Yes, it is. All right.
Those have been your succinct summaries.
Beautiful, beautiful succinct summaries. So as an update as to where we are in the plot, my male wife Elias is in his villain era. He's doing hot girl shit. Whoops, he tripped and gave Leitner a little bonky on the head. And Leitner is no longer with us.
And framed Jonathan Sims for it.
Did he frame him?
Yes. The only person who was in that room before Elias came in was Jonathan Sims. I'm pretty sure it was his office. He told everyone else to go home, and when they come in, there's a dead body. Okay, yes, but hear me out. It's not like he planted any of John's stuff at the scene. That's what I mean about framing. Because I'm under the impression that this was an impulsive act. Right. And frame, to me, has, like, intent. Okay, he murdered a man in a way that it looks like it was Jonathan Sims, could have cleared it up, but chose not to. Whoopsie. Whoops-a-doodle. So yeah, Elias is the bad guy, did kill Gertrude probably. All those times when I said, no, that's the obvious answer, the writers wouldn't be that obvious, apparently they were. Technically, we do not know for sure, but Jurgen seems to be one of the people in the know, and he said, I suspect it was Elias. Yeah. Now, I'm very particular. You and I, neurodivergent, there's no way to tell. There's no way to see that coming. I feel, listening back during editing of the episodes, that sometimes there's like an episode that we just don't talk about. So if I may, I would really like to at least go in order. And if we have nothing to say, we have, I don't know, nothing to say. But, like, we could at least, like, make sure we don't skip any of them.
Yeah, I suppose we could do that.
Okay. What would you prefer?
I think the reason we skip episodes is because this is a podcast about whatever we want, so we only talk about the stuff that's interesting to us.
Yeah, but the neurodivergency,
Yeah.
I need structure.
This is a collaborative experience, man. If you don't want to just fly off the seat of your pants, we can do that.
The
It's just
horrors
gonna
make
take
me
more
fly
time.
off the seat of my pants. I fall for an eternity as I fall out of the chair.
So peaceful.
How
so relaxing.
How did you like this episode? These set of episodes?
They were pretty good, I would say. I feel like the ones that were unsettling were really, really unsettling, and the ones that were kind of were more than previous.
Yes, I mentioned in Season 2, Part 1, that it really feels like every episode is a sequel to a previous episode. And the back half, I don't know if they're necessarily all sequels, but there are callbacks. We see Saleza in one of these episodes. We see Agnes Montague. We see Brecon and Hope. We see the coffin that you should not open. We see a guy named Tom, and I didn't connect this. I saw someone mention in the YouTube comments, Sasha has a boyfriend named Tom who's clearly also a stranger that means you harm, and the third person with Brecon and Hope in that episode was named Tom. It's the same thing.
So not Sasha really does have a boyfriend. She wasn't just photoshopping somebody into her pictures to show to John.
Absolutely. We meet Daisy, who we've had described to us before. We have an episode that is Basira's statement. We have Melanie King coming back. We have Michael McTwisty. We have Michael McSkydaddy, Michael Cruz. We have a bunch. The only character I think who's missing is we don't really get a Jared Key in these episodes. We also don't get the other Jared, who is the giant meathead. The meat monster.
I don't like that guy. I'm glad he's not around right now.
Right. But yeah, it's just there are specific names, and when you hear that name, you go, I know what this episode's going to be about.
Yes. Okay, so you want to go episode by episode and just kind of talk about our vibes?
Yes.
All right. Hit me with your 61 vibes.
Episode 61, Hard Shoulder. Like I said, it is another episode that has a coffin, that has the do not open coffin, but this time we get to see what happens when you open it. What's inside the coffin? Stairs that go downward they go further down than would be suggested by where the coffin was open and of a different material. So it's another one of those welcome to the graveyard dimensions.
Yeah, and do you think that the spirally stairs are related to the twisty? Like, why do the strangers have this box? If you walk into it, then can they come out as you? Or do they just have it because they have it?
That's a good question. I think the spiral staircase does sound like McTwisty's work. It's not bugs. It's not meat. It's not strangers that mean... I mean, it could be strangers that mean you harm since they're the one carrying it, but they do not only carry their shit. They carry all sorts of stuff.
Yeah, well, and we get an indication later that they're kind of, like, taken in by patterns. The web, specifically, right?
Oh, yeah.
But maybe Michael McTwisty and the web, they're vulnerable to that.
Yeah.
So maybe they're carrying this around for McTwisty.
Oh, it's his coffin kind of a thing. Okay. So you had a quote or a detail that you put in here. So we get a statement from Daisy. She talks about this is like her inciting incident. This is how she gets involved in Section 31. But she also mentions, like, later in her career, like other things that have happened. And she mentions the vampires that Trevor mentioned. And she said to John that she has killed 5 over the last 9 years. And you said, is that an increase in the number of vampires? Do you think that's significant?
I do think it's significant, both foreknowledge, but also, like, it's definitely a higher number than Trevor had in his career.
Yeah, Trevor had, like, 4 over, like, 30 years or something.
So either Daisy is even better at hunting spooky stuff, which would make sense because she's a police officer, or we're getting more and more spooky stuff.
Right. Do not forget, though, she's not necessarily hunting them. There's just a specific set of parameters. If a guy or a person gets brought into the police station and they do these things, that's a vampire, and she's the one that disposes of them. But still, I do think that you're right, that they're increasing. Here's something interesting. We learn from Daisy that she does not open up about stuff. She won't tell anyone why she's named Daisy. She's kind of gruff when she shows up and whatever. But she's incredibly honest when John is talking to her. you and I have foreknowledge. We've seen or listened to most of season 3. But if you're a new listener like we are and you're going through this series one at a time, just kind of pay attention to that. The fact that she was so open about stuff that we've been told Daisy should not be open about. When John's like, do you want to give a statement? The sound in his voice when she's like, I'll give a statement. He's like, really? You're gonna give a statement? I didn't. Okay, sure.
I will say, as this series goes on, John is getting slightly more and more pathetic. And by that I mean human, right? But like he's just a little guy and big stuff is happening around him. And we thought that he wasn't a little guy because he's like serious archivist man. And Martin is so much like goofier and more ADHD than John. But like, no, in his heart of hearts, John is just a little guy.
John is a softie, and we wrote down those notes.
Also, he's an idiot. We'll get there.
We'll get there.
Joel wanted to go episode by episode.
I do also want to point out, so in one of the episodes, in episode 36, the old people's home, retirement community, I think is a more polite way of saying that. But there's Trevor the vampire hunter and a woman with like short-cut hair and helping him like set fire to the place. And then we later, like 2 episodes after that, learn about a Section 31 police officer named Daisy the detective. And I thought they were the same person. Just so you know, they are not the same person. So, my bad. You get a badass hunter of monsters, and then a couple of episodes later, you get a badass hunter of monsters. I connected the two. I thought they were the same person.
Hey, man, you can be cute and also wrong about stuff. That's John's whole thing.
Absolutely.
I am really excited about 62. As soon as it was like Mary Kaey, I was like, haha, what? She's haunted. She's a spooky-ass lady.
She reveals, kind of indirectly, but directly enough that, you notice as an audience member, that people who are touched by the horrors kind of can sense each other. And, like, once the horrors have taken notice of you, all of the horrors kind of take notice of you, I think. But she is drawn to a neighbor. She goes, there's something weird about that neighbor. What's going on with that neighbor? And kills that person in order to get her book. We've seen that book before, haven't we?
We sure have. That's her book with the little skulls in it. Turns out that you can kill somebody and then write the story of their death onto their skin and then put their skin in the book as a page, and then you've got them as a ghost?
Yeah, she describes this doctor woman opening the book and being like, hey, and she summoned a ghost and asked the ghost about like where they kept their money or something, and so she's using it for like insurance fraud, and Mary Kaey is offended by this. She's like the power of the horrors.
Yes. We learn that, like we thought, Mary's family is watched over by the Eye.
Right.
She strongly indicates that is true, but she says that she doesn't want to be devoted to just one thing. She wants to do all the things.
Yeah. Now, I have a quote here that is kind of what you were talking about. My inclinations, predictably, are more towards watching than doing the deed myself, which is murder in this case. So, and she even says something about, like, I don't think I'd be a good servant of the end. And so the Eye is associated with the Institute. Spoilers. And so she's a little bit more eye-oriented, but she kind of is like, I want to be a jack of all trades.
Yeah, and then this is the first episode where the end as an entity is named.
I think this is the first entity that gets named, like, directly to the audience. Like I said, if you go back to the episode where Michael McSkydaddy jumps and he's like, claim me.
I don't think you should call him Daddy.
Okay, Michael Mick, my brother in Sky. Michael endlessly falling cruise.
Michael,
Michael, they will never hear when your body hits the ground because it technically never will.
Damn.
Anyways, if you listen to his episode, he says a bunch of stuff, and the name of his entity is in there, but he doesn't say, I'm going to give myself to Mick Skydaddy, or whatever.
Absolutely.
Did you like this episode, learning about Mary?
I did. I liked it a lot. I liked that, like, Elias and John are ex-husbands. The two of them are ex-wives.
God, they hate each other so much.
They hate each other so much. What is it about me where I see two characters who despise each other and I go, they're married?
You've read too many toxic fanfics, probably.
But why do I like them?
Which entity? This is not a psychologically introspective podcast.
Absolutely. But yeah, I loved their relationship and their back and forth. There's something particularly delightful about old ladies being politely bitchy.
Yeah,
like they can get
absolutely.
away with more because they're old, but they also have manners because they're old. But I love it. I love it.
Yeah. Really quick, Mary has a line. She has a lot of lines. She also had a little lamb, so the rumors go. But she said that you and I, Gertrude and Mary Kaey, are on the same side even if Elias disagrees. So Elias has some kind of a scheme, and Gertrude has a different scheme, possibly.
And Mary has a scheme that she thinks could kiss Gertrude's scheme.
What did you get the impression that Mary Kaey's goal of everything was?
Control of dark forces.
Okay, so they're on the same side as in they're combating the dark forces. Maybe.
I don't even know if combating is the right word. I assumed, listening to this episode, that Gertrude also was trying to channel them for something, and that Elias was more trying to just, like, gather all the information in one
Elias
spot.
was trying to make a spreadsheet, and his spreadsheet is not as beautiful as ours.
Oh, that's why he's killing people. He's just jealous he can't make a pretty spreadsheet. He doesn't know how if statements in Excel work.
Incredible. Okay, I like that, and you also answered my next question, which is, like, what is Elias planning?
Also, John in the supplemental. Are we doing supplementals right now or no?
I mean, sure. Yeah.
John found a secret compartment with a laptop and a key.
Yeah, there was a part in the recording where there was like a squeaky floorboard, and he goes, "That floorboard still squeaks today. I can find it." And there's a laptop. We knew she had one because there was a charger in her apartment, and the key is a tool that'll help us later.
You know something I've noticed recently about like my autistic literalism that's starting to really annoy me?
Okay.
In fiction, sometimes you'll be like, why did they mention X? Or like in this podcast, right? I'm sure if I went back and listened, we'd hear the squeaky floorboard that John was like, that's been in other episodes. It must be important. When I hear like a squeaky floorboard in the back of a recording, I don't go, that's probably important. I go, yeah, it's background noise. And so like, unless it seems like a clue to something, I'm not looking out for it. So often I'm looking in the wrong spot, and that's just frustrating to me.
Okay, that's a very interesting take, because to me, the reason that he mentioned the squeaky floorboard is they needed a way for John to find the secret compartment in a way that no one else would, and so you put an audio thing that only he would hear by listening to the statement, and then he goes, aha, I found it. I would bet money that there is not a squeaky floorboard in previous Magnus Archive episodes.
No, just Gertrude's.
Well, no, I don't...
Oh, you don't think you heard it anywhere?
Episode 62, right? Mm-hmm. The first 61 episodes, I do not believe they put a squeaky floorboard.
Okay, I guess we're going to have to go back and listen. That was an example.
I see.
My point is sometimes you'll go, I noticed thing, and I'll go, they're not trying to say anything with thing. It is what it looks like, but they were trying to say something with it. I just am stupid.
You're not stupid. Here's something interesting. Jonathan Sims seems to have a pretty sharp intuition about things. He seems to notice details that connect to each other. I wonder if that could be relevant in some way.
God, I feel like we're so bad at like pretending we don't know stuff.
Yeah, if I know stuff, but I'm pretending not to know stuff, I still like to kind of nudge people, you know? Like, isn't it interesting that X, Y, or Z? On to episode 63. This one is pretty spooky, but it's also one of the ones that's like, babe, you're definitely haunted. How did you not notice?
So you have heard about urban exploring prior to this podcast, right?
I guess.
Okay, so we went to school at a university, and that university has a series of tunnels underneath it that you can explore if you get in the right spot. There's like secret maps passed down from seniors.
It's Harry Potter, Legend of Zelda type shit.
But it's real.
Right.
Yeah, it wasn't written by Hatsune Miku. It's real. But the idea of this urban exploring is stuff like that, right? But first of all, it's crazy to me that there are whole buildings underground in London. How did that happen? And I know like fires and basements and stuff. Mm-hmm. But like I'm imagining like a house, and then there was a fire, and the whole house just ended up underground. And that's not what they're saying. But it's weird to me to imagine. Follow up. Why would you want to go down there? Would you? I wouldn't.
Well, no, but that's the whole point of this series is people are like, I'm really curious. Or this person just wanted to make a buck because people are morbidly curious.
He wanted to go get some cool photos.
Fun fact, the camera person was actually a woman. and was married to another woman.
Oh.
They're lesbians.
Oh.
They're lesbians, Harold.
They're allowed. You have his friend dies in our summary?
Right, because Jonathan Sims was the one reading it, I completely forgot.
That's valid, yeah. Every statement read by a man, the statement giver is a man, and if a woman ever reads a statement, I guess Gertrude reads some statements. Every statement Gertrude reads.
Yes, absolutely. Is it Gertrude or is it Mary Kaey that is Johnny Sims's mother? It's Gertrude. Right. So, fun fact about some of the voice acting stuff. The real-life writer, Johnny Sims, his mom and dad have voiced people. Mom plays Gertrude Robinson, and dad played Jurgen Leitner.
Yes.
May he rest in peace in episode 80.
I think we mentioned the Gertrude one last episode.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, if you've never listened to us before, there's a new fun fact. Anyway, what do you think of this episode? Were you spooked?
Yeah, it's pretty spooky to imagine, but like I said, it's one of those, you are obviously haunted. So they go underground, they're taking pictures, but every time he has a picture every time she has a picture on her camera, there's a shadow in the way. And at first, she thinks it's the lighting person, even though the lighting person does this for a living and would not make that mistake. But then there's other shots that she gets where the other person was nowhere near her and there's still a shadow. Get out of there. There's no way that you need this photo in order to make a living in order to stay in your apartment or whatever.
Yeah, just leave. Also, mean, right? Mean to your friend. Even if there were no horrors, if you and I were in a spooky basement and you started hyperventilating, I wouldn't be like, don't be a baby, we gotta get pictures. Actually, I might do that to you specifically. I wouldn't do that to a friend, but I have higher standards for you.
Okay, fair enough. But no, the fact that you could hear them coming, and there's also a detail in here where it's I wanted to call out, but I couldn't. The shadows are not just darkness, they also seem to be a muting of sound as well, seems to be an effect of the darkness horror.
Yeah.
But what's most important about this episode is at the very end, Melanie King comes back.
Melanie King, ghost hunter, and she's been stabbed or something.
Yeah, she has a wound. And she has lost credibility within the spooky YouTubers, the paranormal investigators. And she doesn't tell her story. She just says that she's kind of fallen out of grace. But she mentions, that new girl let me in. There are no new girls at the Institute. Everyone who's at the Institute has been there for a while. The only quote-unquote new character is not Sasha, who replaced Sasha.
Why do you think Melanie could tell?
I have a theory, and this is kind of skipping ahead to the distant cousin and the mother one. The stranger that replaces you is able to see your close relationships. So if it replaced me, it would know to grab your memory and change it. But in Melanie's case, she'd only talked to Sasha once. In The Kind Mother, she was distant from her mom until recently. And in the cousin one, they didn't spend any time together. So it doesn't know to replace far-off relationships.
Yeah, going off of the cousin one, too, I think that it likes it when only one person notices. Because it both spooks them that everybody else is like, what are you talking about? So it's like the gaslighting horror.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, it creates this weird unsettling vibe with everybody else. So
okay, yeah. Also important lore that will come up in season 3. It's not important, but Melanie mentioned that she knew someone named Georgie who ran a What the Ghost podcast. We are going to sue that woman if she exists in real life for stealing our channel name, basically.
Ghost of the what?
But Melanie says, I didn't know that you knew Georgie. And John's like, yeah, that was a while ago, but she probably doesn't like me very much. But apparently John might have dated the host of What the Ghost.
Oh.
Maybe.
Oh. Doing a little smooching on the side, Mr. Archivist. Interesting.
Episode 64.
Really quick?
Sorry, yes?
We're doing a really bad job at going quickly.
Are we? Yeah, okay.
I think we are. I think we are. I just wanted to say that. But you want to go through every single episode. Episode 64 was not good.
No, I don't.
It was boring.
I don't care about mummies. Okay, if I were here and an undead thing that was decaying was scrumbling towards me, I'd probably be afraid. But I don't know.
I'd just give it a kick. I'd just be like, no, enough of that. I will say, I think anything moving when you don't expect it to move will startle you.
That's true.
Earlier you saw a frog and you went, frog! And you're not even scared of frogs.
No, frogs are not scary.
So I do think that if a mummy suddenly started going, yeah, you'd be like, oh my God.
That's true.
But no, I'd just be like, no, stop it.
I do find it interesting that there is a set of dice in the corner, which links it to episode something or another in mid-30s, I think, where that person gambled with death. So I think this person became a death avatar, but the Egyptians were like, someone who can't die is really freaky, and they just locked them in a box.
So he just got stuck.
And then that's why it wanted to die when these archaeologists showed up. It was like, please.
I love that. That's such a good theory. You're so smart.
Aw. Binary.
This one unsettled me.
Okay.
It was unsettling.
Do you want to give more details than the merging of meat and computer?
Yeah, this is the one where Matt Pat got pregnant and gave birth to Springtrap. No, sorry.
That's too many levels deep. No one's going to understand.
That's a FNAF joke. Look. In the Flesh is the greatest book on the earth. Oh, I'm so sorry. No, okay, so this computer programmer was like, everybody tries to make a haunted AI. It's like the go-to creepypasta for people who do AI chats.
Well, and it takes, it's historical. There was a guy who supposedly was a great programmer who wanted to escape death by uploading himself into the computer, and it went horribly wrong. And now people spook each other by pretending to be that guy.
Right. So I assume this one is a she.
That's a she. It is.
Yeah.
It's taken direct from subject.
It is a she.
Yes.
So she really likes these, and anytime there's a new one, she downloads them. Mm-hmm. So one pops up on her online message board, and she's like, ooh, let me download it. And she starts talking to it, and it's bad. It's no good. Like, it just gets progressively creepier, and at first she's like, yeah, this is really creepy, I like it. But then it starts showing her, like, video of a man ripping out his teeth.
Eating the keyboard, I think.
That's right. But yeah, just eating the keyboard one piece at a time, and she can't turn the screens off. She can't escape it. Eventually, anywhere she goes in the city, if there's a screen there, this video starts playing on it, and nobody else can see it.
And eventually she just has to sit through and she has to watch the whole thing. What I find interesting... We've already covered the one with the new door, right? The woman who showed up and was obsessed with.
Yeah.
People who face the horrors and live are not always necessarily unscarred, unmarked by the experience. She gets weird at the beginning of this episode talking about like what magnetic tapes are and how we call some things analog and some things digital. This episode does a masterful job of not telling you that she's absolutely obsessed with her horror. She absolutely is, though. She's gonna get got. She's gonna try to upload her brain into a computer.
Yeah.
And she'll say things like, the maze is sharp on my mind. The angles cut me when I try to think. That's just a hardcore line, no matter what the context is.
That's awesome.
That's really well written.
See, and that's why I thought maybe this was a McTwisty episode. Because it's about, like, obsession and madness and...
So, in Season 4 Q&A, Johnny Sims, writer of the show... said that it was the spiral, but I did not put that in the Excel document because I didn't want to use foreknowledge. I wanted to say, like, I guess it kind of makes sense because it's kind of like you're taking your meat body and trying to escape it a little bit.
That's neat. The keyword of the day is maze. I also didn't listen to that Q&A, so I feel very proud of myself.
Yes. Well, I haven't listened to it either, but I saw it like as a comment somewhere.
Got it.
Most of the people who comment on the podcast on Magnus Archives episodes will not use foreknowledge, but some of them seem to accidentally slip up every once in a while.
Yep. Also, in Haunted Computer News, John has access to the Gertrude's computer now.
He specifically was asking for people to tell their haunted computer stories because he needed someone who could hack Gertrude's computer.
Also, Tim yells at John.
Yes.
Which was very hard for me to listen to. I do not do well with people being angry, even in media, if they're angry enough. And like, poor Tim, he's just having a bad time. He can't quit his job.
Yeah. Well, and not only that, but like, John's level of paranoia would be pretty hard to work with. And so Tim is both upset that he's getting attacked by bugs. He's upset because John is the one who invited him to become an archival assistant. And he's also mad that, like, his boss just does not have his back.
I totally forgot that this was the John is losing it season. He's losing it a little less in this collection of episodes, if I recall, because the back half, or the front half, ended with maybe you could stop.
Well, no, it ended with him getting CCTV footage of the Institute that showed that no one murdered Gertrude. It's a mystery.
Yeah.
And we find out later that maybe he shouldn't have trusted it. And he even says it. He's like, isn't it convenient that they got me the CCTV footage right as I started to, like, really get paranoid about the case? And we asked that same question, and eventually they paid it off. That was Chekhov's gun was just hanging there.
Yep.
Someone decided to take it and fire it.
Boom, boom. Episode 66... It's a guy in a box.
It's Saleza and Lucas. There's 2 Lucases, I think, but this is the ship captain Lucas.
I love that Saleza is kind of a decent dude.
Kind of, yeah.
Like, when this customs agent accidentally touched the box, Saleza was like, man, don't go to sleep.
Yeah, because if you go to sleep, that's how you're going to get sucked into the box or whatever.
Yeah, and the customs agent was like, oh, he's threatening me. I'm just going to go to sleep anyway, like an idiot. And then he gets sucked in the box. And it turns out, when he survives the horror, because he does, congratulations, but Peter Lucas and Saleza had made a bet about whether he was going to die or not, which is hilarious.
Yeah, they open the lid and they kind of like look at each other, which is interesting.
For an avatar of loneliness, Peter Lucas sure does have a lot of friends.
That's one way of putting it, I suppose. I liked this episode. I wasn't necessarily... It's another, like, it's scary because they got transported to another dimension kind of a thing. If I was stuck in a box for 3 days, I'd probably go insane. It's unlikely that I'm going to find myself in a box that slowly squeezes in on me, but it was a well-written episode.
Yeah, and I mean, eventually this guy just, like, gave in and accepted death, and then he got out of the box. So
absolutely.
We all know how to escape the horrors, except that death is inevitable.
Absolutely. Episode 67, Burning Desire. I was really excited about this one because I want to know more about the fire demons that are fighting the spiders. Agnes is weird. She shows up to a cafe every week on the same day at the same time. Same day of the week, same time. Always orders her coffee black with just enough room for milk on top.
But never adds any.
Never adds milk, never drinks it, never talks to anyone except for one person who had like a manila envelope that like she handed it and was like, are you going to be able to do the job? But this guy who's a bit of a weirdo himself, he says so. He goes, yeah, I'm attracted to her. She's so amazing. And I asked her to go out with me and she said yes, but we never really did anything. We went to the movies once and I asked her what she thought of it. And she was like, I wasn't really watching it, and asked me about my destiny. And I was like, what? I don't have a destiny. She goes, it must be nice. Agnes, you're a freak.
I love that this guy found a weird, creepy woman and he was like, I love her. I love who she is as a person. And their dates were so cute, too.
They were pretty cute.
She would just show up and she'd be like, we're going on a date. And then she'd just go with him somewhere.
Yeah, it was a really interesting look into one of the servants of the horrors. I feel bad for her. I don't quite understand what her deal is. I'm sure we'll get it later, that like she made a deal with the devil when she was like 3 years old or something. But she basically knew she was going to die. She told a bunch of the other lightless flame cultists that they're going to have to complete the work, which probably killing a bunch of spiders would be my guess. There's one quote in here that I think is very important, it touches on a theme that gets brought up again and again and again. And as I've said before, if John looks at the camera, at the microphone, and he says, I wonder what's up with all these bugs, that probably means that bugs are important. He comments that she, Agnes Montague and or Fielding, depending on who you talk to, is dead. As is Diego Molina. He's a fire demon from that hospital episode with Gerard Key. And he says, I can only hope that prevents them from causing further problems. We know there's some ways that people can come back. There's a Book of the Dead floating around. Also, we didn't mention it, Mary Kaey's episode ends with her heavily implying that there's one last secret in the book, and she knows how to get it, and then says goodbye. She put herself in the book because there's a secret in there. There's a secret in this tunnel. Nope, piranha plants.
That's what I was gonna say, yeah.
Wait a minute, there's a secret in this tunnel. Nope, piranha plant. You're no fun.
Again, with the deep cuts.
Yeah, absolutely.
This podcast really is just for us. I apologize if you feel like you've wandered into our house while we're having dinner.
Do you have anything else about Burning Desire?
I thought it was a really, beautiful, sweet, sad episode.
There's not much horror in it other than he kisses her and half his face gets burned off.
I mean, that's just, sometimes that happens when you kiss somebody.
I guess so. Who have you been kissing?
I just have sensory aversions, is the thing. No, but I thought it was beautiful. Very, like, romantic and sad for a horror podcast. So it just goes to show you that horror can encompass the full range of human emotions, not just, ooh, that's a big spooky.
That's true. Also, the supplemental for this episode, I'm just kind of skipping over the supplemental because they basically are just leading to John finds out more about Gertrude. But in this specific episode, John's like, Elias, let me go into the tunnels. And Elias is like, I'm against it. And John's like, please, I need to go into the tunnels. I need to know what's down there. And Elias is like, fine, whatever. But John says, either let me go down there or I quit. And Elias offhandedly goes, you know how hard it would be for me to replace you. And John goes, what? No, I don't. But considering the way that this season ends with the revelations about John and Elias and the Institute, turns out they were married. That's the secret. But
it's not a secret.
What an interesting thing for him to say. And I really want to know how that process works.
Absolutely. Till Field Hospital. This is a spooky episode.
Yeah, it's another book that is haunted. The guy who reads it cuts himself on the paper and dies of, like, really gross diseases that advance super quickly. We get a private Amherst during the Boers War. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I got confused listening to this because they mentioned concentration camps, so I thought it was about World War II, but it's a conflict that was earlier than that, like early 1900s. But there's a guy named Amherst. We know a guy named Amherst in the present day. The guy in the past died of disease. Amherst present time, also disease. And so is this guy immortal, or does he have descendants that carry on the same legacy? And also, super cool fun fact. Back when Manifest Destiny was a thing, back when the British were pushing further inland and taking land from the Native Americans, the indigenous people, there was a guy who deliberately gave the Native Americans blankets that he knew were infected with disease that they were particularly vulnerable to because they didn't have the same immune system, they hadn't been in the same environment, and a bunch of them died. That person's last name was also Amherst, so that is the influence that real-life Johnny used to create this character who is associated with disease.
Yeah, and I know it probably does go without saying, but, like, that's so f***ed up.
Yeah,
and,
absolutely.
And it's f***ed up that we're all taught that it was like a whoopsie accident. Like, we should own things like that, I think, so that we avoid them.
That's kind of why I wanted to mention it explicitly on the podcast, just because, like, yeah. You had a comment on this one.
Yes. So John is in the tunnels, and he's wandering around, and he tries to avoid some spiders and finds a gas main. And so the spiders gave him a lighter.
Yeah. And
now the spiders have led him away from wherever he was going toward this gas main. I think the spiders are trying to get him to blow up the Institute. Like, either he's going to defeat the spiders with fire, or they're influencing him to use the gas and the lighter together in some other way. And I don't know when it's going to come up, but I think that it's intentional.
Yeah, it probably is very intentional. It would be very funny if he used the fire against the spiders, because the spiders have a weakness to fire, but they're the ones that gave him the lighter.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going on with that. This episode, also, the statement giver is someone who, like, believes in the Illuminati and stuff. Kind of a weird guy. But he mentions that files got leaked in 1999. He doesn't say how they got leaked. We don't know how they got leaked, but we know one person who was active in 1999 who maybe didn't like the Institute.
So here's to you, Mrs. Robinson.
But it's interesting, and if someone deliberately leaked the files, why? I mean, you and I think came to the same conclusion that it weakens the eye, but, like, what an interesting weakness of the eye horror.
I guess if everyone can see stuff, then it feels less voyeury.
If everyone can see stuff, then no one can.
Yeah, like, you know, like if you go to a nudist beach and you see a bunch of naked people, like, you're not seeing anything special because everyone can see that. But, like, if you're doing a little sneaky peek and you're into that, I'm not saying I am. The more I deny this, the more it's going to sound weird. And like, you get it.
Like, look, if you read Brandon Sanderson's novels, Stormlight Archive, he kind of touches on this, but, like, Why are women's breasts considered sexualized? Well, because we hide them, and that making them...
There is nothing more secret than the feminine nipple.
Well, exactly. Like, that's why it becomes a fetish, and that's what Sanderson does in his story with women who cover up their left hand.
Yeah.
And now it's a fetish in his world. He's never explicitly said that, but it's pretty clear that that's what it is.
Absolutely. Also, I really just wanted to see your face turn pink when I said nipple, and I was successful, so...
Absolutely.
Leave your best comment that will make my husband blush in the comments on this video.
Keep them safe for YouTube, though,
Preferably.
Yeah. Episode 69, nice, is about, there's this episode and there's another one coming up in season 3 that really make me think that, the way the spider horrors work is, one person is kind of I could do something related to spiders, and then that just, it bleeds out to become this thing.
A web?
A web. Why did the psychiatrists or psychologists or whatever the heck they were, why did they want to do a study about telepathy, basically, and they use spiders as the focus? Babe, you're not even trying to avoid the horrors. Pretty spooky episode. It takes a while to get to the spooky part, but you, the listener, already know that spiders are spooky, so you're already primed for what's happening, and... This is very important because, again, there's another episode that I think is a deliberate callback to this one. They pair together. The statement giver says, I swear for a moment that the person had 8 eyes. So, people can become spider? I guess that's how it works. You go inside of a web cocoon. That's more of a caterpillar thing, but...
Yeah.
And you emerge something else.
Beetles do it, too.
Do they?
They don't really do cocoons. But yeah, beetles start as little grubbers... and then they turn into beetles.
Interesting. They evolve in the Pokemon sense. Moving on. Do you have anything to say about 69?
Nice. No. I will say, so I'm not afraid of spiders. And so a lot of the spider episodes, I'm like, that could be neat.
Yeah? Martin also seems to, in canon, be not afraid of spiders, which, if they're a horror, that might mean something. Either he's immune to them, or he's been secretly serving them the whole time.
This story will probably come up later because it's relevant to an episode, but I told Joel this off mic. When I was, 9 years old, my favorite movie in the whole world was a B horror film called Eight-Legged Freaks, because I am just obsessed with, or I was obsessed with spiders. And I constantly wanted people to watch it with me, and nobody would after the first time. And it was my favorite movie, not because anything that happened in the movie, just because I could go, that's a trapdoor spider. This is how they eat people. And then the big trapdoor opens and the spider comes out.
Okay, so trapdoor spiders don't eat people in real life. It's how the trapdoor spider works.
They're too little. They're too little. But they do make trapdoors, and that's really cool.
That is pretty
And I can
neat.
tell you about the funnel spider. If you put a funnel spider in a jar,
that's really cool. This is not a spider-themed podcast. Please, regale me. We will do a special episode that is just you talking about different spider facts, and my only audio will be me going, okay.
Can we look at pictures too?
Maybe.
And you'll say they're cute?
Yeah, none of them can be spawning. That's absolutely off the table.
No, that's fine. Okay. You'll admire their little palps?
Yeah, maybe.
Good! Okay. Anyway, moving on.
Episode 70, super interesting episode. A man gets a book, and it's a big book. And at the beginning of the book, it's written in, an ancient language. I don't remember which. He can't read it, but as he flips through, it starts to become more and more modern, and there's stories in there about people getting gruesomely murdered, or dying. Most of the time it's dying, but there was one that was a murder. And then he gets to the second to last page, and the way he got this book was he had an acquaintance who died, and then bequeathed this book in his death to the statement giver. The second to last page is a gruesome description of how that other person died before he bequeathed the book to our guy.
Before you go on, I'm going to ask you. You get bequeathed a book, and this book has descriptions of deaths leading all the way up to your friend's gruesome death. Would you turn the page to read what was on the last page?
I might, because that's a really strange, intriguing thing. Also, the book is only ever bequeathed to people who are going to obsessively read the book.
Okay, that's fair. Because, I personally, if that happened to me, would be like, I'm burning this. Like, I'm so avoidant of things that I think might be unpleasant that there's no shot this particular horror could catch me this way.
Right? Well, and he even mentions, he goes, I tried to burn it, it didn't work. Clearly, everyone else who had possessed the book had also probably thought of everything that I could possibly do. The one thing he didn't like is the idea of burying it, which is kind of interesting. But that's how the horrors work in this series. There's a quote from an episode. I don't know if I wrote it down, but it was something along the lines of like, I couldn't stop because I needed to know, and that's how the horrors get you. It's like this, like, it's you can't look away, but you know it's bad kind of vibes.
Yeah.
I really like this episode, and I wrote down my own thoughts that I think perfectly matches the vibe here. Prentice. Yes! Give me the bugs! Give me the bugs! Give me the bugs! Amherst. I love getting people sick. I want to see them bleed from their eyeballs from the flu or whatever. We have a couple of others. And then the guy with the Book of the Dead. Goddamn! I hate this! I hate this! I hate this! Me! This! You! Everything!
I think it's because Prentice and Amherst were shaking hands with the horrors, whereas this guy was just, you know, the horror snuck into his room in the middle of the night, and he was like, no means no, Mr. Bear, but it's happening anyway.
Mr. Bear, that's from something. Anyways.
That's from college. You don't remember that?
No.
Oh my god, yeah. So, side story for the listeners, I guess. In college, Joel had a roommate who did martial arts, and so did his girlfriend. And they tended to spar with each other, but then they'd get a lot of, like, bruises and marks and stuff. And one time the neighbor even called the police on them because of the amount of noise they were making.
It sounded like a domestic dispute.
It did, yeah. And so, like, I came over one day, and he just was, like, totally busted, like, black eye. And I was like, dude, what happened to you? And he's like, I got in a fight with a bear. And we started, like, cracking up about it. And he goes, yeah, this bear just kept coming. And I went, no means no, Mr. Bear. And so that's been my go-to.
Okay.
I don't even talk to that guy anymore, but I still have no
You still
means
remember.
no, Mr. Bear.
Yeah, of course. Someday we're not even going to remember Danganronpa, and we're going to say, nice, a cheesecake has been added to the bill of your hotel stay.
There are a ton of things we say, like, daily, and we go a few years between rewatches of Scott Pilgrim, but on our most recent rewatch, I went, holy shit, that quote was from Scott Pilgrim.
Oh, yeah. I remember most of the Scott Pilgrim quotes as Scott Pilgrim, but there's other ones I'm sure I've forgotten. Really important piece of information, and, like, I don't know, I felt like I kind of got the impression of this a while ago, but John realizes that if this book has depictions from, like, what I think might have been, like, ancient Greece or something, Leitner couldn't have made the books because that dude lived a normal human lifespan amount of time.
Yep, he's just Brothers Grimmsing it.
Yeah, pretty much. John also finds underground a room in the tunnels with like 3 chairs, and there's like a scrap of paper that came from a book that he knew was haunted and came from Leitner that he knew Gertrude bought online. But there's also 3 chairs there, and I think the 3 chairs is highly relevant. I think that there's 3 people who were doing a thing. Gertrude was down there, but Whomsd'tve the other 2? We find out by the end of this season that she was working with Leitner. That's only 2. So who's the 3rd?
Mary Kaey.
Mary Kaey. Elias Bouchard. Bouchard is killing the other members of the trio so that he can amass more power.
It's Hot Girl Summer. What do you want from him?
Oh, we talk about 2 a.m. all the time. I'm sorry. The girl the woman who got the spooky murder.exe, she forgot that she had downloaded it, but she remembered at 2:30 in the morning. Or it was about 2 in the morning when she remembered she'd downloaded it. So, god damn it, what is with 2 o'clock and being a portal to the horrors?
71, Underground, about the haunted train. I love this episode because, again, like, I made a joke at the opening about autism defeats the horrors. This woman, like, didn't even know to be spooked, and then when she was like, well, it's an inescapable situation, she just laid down and accepted death, and then opened her eyes and she was off the train.
Can you describe the episode a little bit more in depth about, like, events?
I can do my best. You've re-listened to this more recently than I have.
I'll tell you.
Do it.
A woman gets on a train late at night, but it slows down between like stop A and stop B, and she realizes like it should have made it to stop B at this point. But she basically goes, okay, what are my options? I can sit here and do nothing. I can take a door leading to the caboose of the train and maybe like walk down the tracks to the previous station, or I can go towards, what's the front one called? Anyways, I can go to the front of the train, maybe talk to the conductor.
Locomotive.
She decides to go to the locomotive to talk to the conductor. I almost called it the pilot, the train pilot. But so to talk to him and maybe figure out what the hell is going on. Every car she goes through is more squished than the one before it, to the point when she finally realizes, like, oh, I could die down here. The pressure has already squeezed the door shut. She can't leave. And so she goes, I'm trapped here. There's a man who's, like, stuck in, like, rocks, and he goes, I can't move. It's crushing me. It hurts so bad. It hurts. And this woman goes, well, what are my options?
And the train is getting dirtier, and dirt is, like, starting to fall from the ceiling onto her.
The episode's called Underground for a reason. They're all double entendres. But she basically just realizes, like, well, there's nothing else I can really do. Being crushed wouldn't be the worst way to die. So she just lays down, closes her eyes, and wakes up on the train station where she originally got on the spooky haunted train. She is so autistic about it. When she's telling John's like, do you use the train? She goes, well, yeah, I live in London. Of course I still use the train. He's like, what the hell? I think she also was claimed by the horrors. I think she Michael Crewed it.
Oh, yeah, and she was, like, dirty and stuff.
Yeah, like when she left, John was like, she left behind like a pile of dirt or something like that.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, she might not have been. She might have been immune, and it might have been like the ghost of the claustrophobia being like, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you, I'm gonna get you. And she's like, I don't care. You're not gonna get me.
You're not gonna get me.
This is another 2 a.m. sighting. There was another guy who went missing, probably the old man who said it hurts, it hurts, it hurts. It was at 2:30 when he got on the train that got him.
Yeah. 72, takeaway, gross. Gross episode.
Yeah.
Takeaway place was selling his wife as meat.
Yep. And this guy is obsessed with it because that's how the horrors get you. You become obsessed with the place. He decides to go inside and investigate it. Unlike other people affected by the horrors, he actually calls a friend and goes, hey, I'm going into this haunted takeaway place. Please come save me if I don't call back in an hour. Goes in, gets his, what's it called? His tendon cut, so he can't run.
Oh, his Achilles.
Oh, his Achilles, right. He gets some of his fingers cut off and added to a pile of fingers. There's like this unhealthily skinny man who is chewing on one of the fingers, who, like, has completely lost it. John Amherst feels like a guy you could have a conversation with. He's weird. He's going to kill you if you try to kill the bugs, but he feels like he can have coherent sentences. Jane Prentice, not really full sentences, not as she was. This guy is a little bit like full sentences, but it's just like he'll randomly talk about something else, and if you try to be like, do you believe in Christianity? Because you mentioned, that some Christians were cannibals. And he goes, no, you're not getting it.
Yeah, he had a huge stack of Bibles and was like rambling about how the first Christians were cannibals. And like, yeah, okay, man. Related to the guy from the killing floor, right?
Yes. So I think he's the uncle of that other guy. They are the Han family. And one's John Han and one is Tom Han. And Han, God dang, I'm so sorry. Han Solo, spelled differently, but that's how I'm going to remember. It's kind of like the guy who saved the Death Star or whatever. Blew it up, I think. I think he was opposed to the Death Star in general, right? Han Solo? No,
I mean, he was opposed.
He was opposed to it, right?
But not, like, on purpose. It was
What?
Luke blew up the Death Star.
His whole
didn't
arc
want anything to do with the
But
rebels.
that's his arc, because he comes back at the end to save
he...
Spock from getting eaten by the space whales.
What?
Yeah, the space whales that Gandalf summoned with his magic stick.
Why don't we focus? I have to leave like 10 minutes.
Okay. What is interesting about this episode is the guy suffered injuries, right? He lost fingers. He got his Achilles cut. But when his friend showed up to save him, he was back to normal. He had his fingers. His foot was okay. Also, that place was extremely flammable. So here's another set of horrors that doesn't like fire. Spiders don't like fire. Darkness probably doesn't like fire, gives off too much light. And meat, apparently, is flammable.
Do you think any of the horrors could be friends with fire? I don't think so. None of them seem like they would be simpatico.
Yeah, I don't think so. Anyways, episode 73, Police Lights.
It's your boy.
What? It's not my boy.
It's not your boy. It's a boy. Maxwell Rayner is back, and this episode was kind of a letdown for me because I thought that he would be a lot more intimidating.
Right.
But he just sort of died.
You just shoot him a couple of times and he dies, which is interesting. He spews out like weird darkness that would have blinded their friend, except their friend got stabbed by the woman from the episode about the dark church. There is a young boy. Remember that. Remember the young boy. But there's a young boy that the police saved, and John again kind of makes a comment about, like, I hope that we're done with the Church of the Divine, the People's Church of the Divine Host, but
Do you think we're done?
I
we done?
wonder if that means that we're done with it or not.
Also, I figured out why the darkness is associated with dirty water. It's the fear of not knowing what there is.
Yeah, if it's murky water, you can't see the bottom. If it's crystal clear water, you can see the fish.
Right,
or whatever.
and if it's dark, you can't see what's waiting for you.
Makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
John does another one of his looks at the camera moments, and he says, who tipped the police off? Because Maxwell Rayner has been successfully under the radar for the last 20 years, not having been caught. But someone tipped them off about where this kidnapping case had taken place. So someone is maybe an ally or really hates the darkness.
Or they want to be the boss and they were tired of Maxwell Rayner
Okay.
being the boss of the darkness cult.
Absolutely.
Episode 74. Everybody's favorite goblin is back. Hello, Michael McTwisty.
This is a really interesting episode because it again feels like the statement giver feels like she has given in to liking that she's an insomniac. She says something about, like, when I was in college, I used to see how long I could go before I had to go to sleep and what happened to my mind. But by the end of it, she doesn't. She doesn't like the fact that she can't sleep. She comments about how not getting enough sleep is deadly, and she died at the age of, like, 29, like, really young. Michael McTwisty shows up and asks her how she's feeling, and she's like, I don't really know how I'm feeling, and he, like, nods his head, and he's like, it'll be okay, and the statement giver's like, I know that he was lying to me. But that's kind of weirdly humanizing, in my opinion, of Michael McTwisty.
No, it is. I thought this one was another really beautifully done episode. Like, it
Well
was
written, for
really poetic in a way that not many of the episodes are.
Yeah.
And that drifting, like, in and out, you're not sure what's real and what's a dream. One of my favorite tropes in fiction is the unreliable narrator, and I feel like Johnny Sims writes it really well.
Yeah, I think so too. The detailer quote that I'm most interested in here is John asks, what do you, Michael McTwisty, want from your victims? Because, like, the meat monster seems to just kind of want people to realize that they're meat, and the falling one likes to make people fall or whatever, but, like, this one, he's weird.
He's
you
the
know?
gaslight gatekeep girl boss horror. Michael McTwisty, what the fuck is his deal? We're stuck in this maze. I don't think it is real.
No, it's definitely not real. I just saw the same clown with long limbs that were too long scramble past.
And
on
yet
all
you
fours.
couldn't put that in a song. Curious. And now back to your regularly scheduled broadcast.
Yes, hello. We took an unexpected break. We were like, what if we just took a short break? What if we took a really long break? So, hopefully...
My dog held a knife to my throat and said, if you don't take me to Flyball, I'll kill you and then every other creature in this house. I'll do it. I swear I will. And I was like, how are you holding the knife with your little puppy paws? And she was like, don't ask fucking questions, Karen. It's not even my name.
Yeah, the ongoing joke in our household is that the animals do not know the names of their people. They just, it's that one and the other one.
Yes, so we were just finishing talking about the fatigue episode and Michael and what does he want from his victims. And I mean, that's a weird thing for John to ask because what he wants is to eat them.
Does he, though? Like there's the violence horror. We'll talk about that in a little bit. And it wants people to inflict violence on each other. And the bug horror just wants to, like, propagate more bugs and disease. But, like, Michael seems different. It doesn't seem like what it's after is necessarily like, I'm going to kill you.
That's true. And it's not as directly, like, malicious, I guess. Like, Michael kind of seems like it's having a good time.
Yeah, Michael does what Michael wants. Michael is this universe's version of Loki, basically.
Absolutely.
So what is the next episode on the list?
The next episode on the list is A Long Way Down. And when you listened to this episode, you texted me and you said, let me know if you think this one is peaceful or not.
Right.
And so, like, here's the thing. I am...
Where's the thing?
Right here.
It's right behind you. It's going to get you.
It's here. It's in front of me where I can keep my eye on it. I'm an eldest daughter with many siblings. And so I am used to keeping track of siblings, and that's pretty much what this episode was about, as a man has a younger sibling who's kind of a but, you know, he's trying, they're brothers, so he's like, I'm going to try my best for my brother. But his brother is annoying the shit out of him because he's living rent-free in his house and won't leave.
Wait, hang on. And then shenanigans happen in France.
Yep, that's where it goes. Because his brother's annoying him, when he goes on vacation to France and his brother follows him, he tricks him into going to the highest building in France.
Right, and this is the guy who's afraid of heights.
Deathly afraid of heights. Trembling on a ladder, almost fell off trying to rescue his brother with a broken arm. But anyway, because this is an episode about siblings, I found it really unsettling because, like, if Michael McTwisty took what did you call him? Sky Daddy?
Sky Daddy, yeah.
If Sky Daddy took my siblings, I'd be pissed. But if it was me, I'd be like, okay, this is fine. You know? So the falling episodes, it really depends on whose perspective it's being presented to me with, I guess. Because, like, from the outside, that's horrifying. But as the person, like, you just kind of float for a long time. Eventually you fall for so long that it's not falling anymore. You are literally being insane right now. You're like, if you go up and you look at a painting that's all red, eventually it just looks like blue to you. That's how what you're saying sounds to me. You know,
as someone who is afraid of heights under the right circumstances. Like, going up a ladder, I'm probably not going to be shaking violently, but if I'm at the edge of something and I can see down, I go, whoa. No, it does not sound like something you would get used to. The same way that if there was a giant granite fist, like, curling around you and slowly suffocating you, you would not be like, well, this is usual. I'm now used to, this is my new normal. Right. Falling doesn't physically hurt, but it's bad. It's a bad vibe.
I guess, you know, sometimes when we're up somewhere high and I look down, I do get that ball tingly feeling. But you know what I do? I look at my balls and I go, stop that. And then they do.
Yeah, that's not how the horrors work. Anyway,
well, that's why we know that the Fairchilds and I wouldn't be buddies, you know?
I see, they wouldn't be able to scare you. They wouldn't go, boo.
Yeah.
I do want to point out, I have a quote listed here, where basically the brother who survived, the older brother, is like, I hope that he's not still falling. And he said, let me quote, some fears can only be endured for so long. And that's the thesis statement of of the Magnus Archives, entirely. Everyone is just trying to endure their fears for as long as they can, and they can't.
Until their fear comes for them in the end.
In the end.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. That's another Danganronpa-ism.
Yeah.
In the
end. Izuku Midoriya, the secret 16th student who's hiding within the very walls. We haven't been talking about the supplemental because I basically alluded to the fact that they all kind of end in the same place. Like, John is going into the tunnels. He's getting scared. He's coming out of the tunnels. He's going back into the tunnels. Sasha's down in the tunnels. Why is Sasha in the tunnels? All of that leads to the finale of this season, so I didn't feel like covering it. But one thing that is interesting, we had an episode, I guess we must have already talked about it, but we had an episode where the police go on a raid to save a child, but also they do battle with, what's his name? Maxwell Raymond. Maxwell Rayner.
Are you having a real one?
I think I'm having a stroke.
Is it safe for you to record this late at night, or do you need to lay down?
No, the show must go on. We cannot put off recording this any longer. But in that episode, the police did a bunch of shitty stuff, and Basira was put on compassionate leave while the higher-ups decide basically how to cover it up. And basically what they decide is they just decide that they're not going to talk about it whatsoever, and they're not even going to disclose, like, how they lost an officer on this mission, and they're not even going to say that, like, they lost him. They're just gonna be like, I don't know, he didn't show up to work one day or something like that. So in this episode, she shows up and she's like, John, what the I'm quitting the police force. I'm done with the supernatural. Here's all of Gertrude's fucking tapes. So John is in possession of all of Gertrude's tapes now.
Yeah, the background side plot with Basira and John is John finding out that Basira suspected him of Gertrude's murder and was, like, feeding him the tapes in the hopes that he'd, like, get too comfortable with her and slip up. But now they're buddies for real. Because the system, I guess.
He was a flight risk, but if so long as he needed more tapes, he would stick around and they knew where to find him, kind of a thing.
I still think it would have been good if John had been, like, unreliable narrator, the one who killed Gertrude.
We put that down in the notes, and I wasn't sure when we were going to bring that up. Do you want to talk about your little theory, what you wanted to happen with that?
No, so I kept saying, right, that it being Elias would be too easy.
And who did the murder of Gertrude.
Right, and we have so many statements now where you're not quite sure what is real and what isn't, specifically the priest from...
Like 19 and 20, I
19
think.
and 20. Yeah, so I thought it would be a really fantastic gut punch if John had done the murder, but he wasn't in his right mind and he thought he was doing something else. And maybe Elias was involved and he was, like, the cover-up.
I see. Yeah.
Because he's definitely a shifty and mother effer, but he could be shifty about all sorts of things.
Yeah, I do. It's interesting because on one hand, this is a mystery podcast where you don't exactly know what's going on. But on the other hand, like you said earlier, they don't necessarily tease out. They tease some mysteries out, but some of them they're very direct with. So, like, the show's been telling you that Elias is sketchy since season 1, and now we have a situation where it seems that that sketchiness is well-founded. And I wonder if they had longer runtime, if they would have teased that mystery out more, or if they wanted it to be a, there's a bomb under the table from Hitchcock, if you're familiar with that quote. So I feel like maybe they want us to know that Elias is dangerous, but some people don't know that, so you can have an, oh God, Martin, get out of there.
Is Martin going to be okay?
Yes, we can talk about that in a little bit. The Smell of Blood episode, moving on.
Oh, yeah, we can move on if we're done with Falling.
Do you have any more to say?
No.
Okay.
Melanie's back. We talked about that earlier. She went to go find ghosts, and she ended up breaking into a haunted train station.
Like a train graveyard.
Yeah, not the whole station is haunted, but it's a graveyard for trains, and she heard one was haunted, and she went on and she got stabbed by a ghost, and then she was screaming and freaking out, and security caught her, and that got caught on tape, and now she's a laughingstock, and she can't go back to public facing
Right,
stuff.
yeah, so basically the skeptics, or no, what are they? The paranormal investigators, they have a tight-knit community, and once you lose their respect, they don't let you back in, and she realized that they basically only investigate safe places, like places where they're not going to get attacked by a ghost, and she's like, what the hell? Can we please look into this? So she gets ousted from the community. John has a sympathetic moment with her because John is secretly a softie.
That was an important note that I put off to the side. Like, he's so soft, right? He let Martin sleep in the archives. He keeps track of Melanie's podcast's upload schedule.
He mentions, I noticed you hadn't been uploading in a while.
Yeah, and then, like, there was another one where the raid with Maxwell Rayner, he heard about that, and he was like, I hope Daisy and Basira aren't on that raid. I hope they're okay.
Very crucial lore. Perhaps the most important piece of information we've gotten from any of these episodes, John Sims knows what a meme is. Very important. Melanie asked him, she's like, you know what a meme is, right? He's like, of course I know what a meme is.
Yeah, Jonathan Sims is canonically, like, the same age as you, which is crazy to me, because I thought he was, like, 46 years old.
Yeah, absolutely. He definitely has a kind of more aged way of talking. Not like he's 70 or something, but he just feels like he has more life experience than he does.
I, as someone who is permanently 15 years old and will never age a day past that, I live in fear of the day when 46 no longer seems old to me.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I'm surprised we've never had, like, an aging fear episode.
Yeah, Bleach puts those two together, kind of twists them around, so maybe we will eventually. We're only 100 episodes into a 200-episode podcast.
That's true. Off mic, we were talking about how we haven't gotten an ice or a snake episode yet.
Fun fact, I think I've brought this up somewhere before, but I heard at once, I never went to confirm it, that basically every religion on Earth has some kind of snake metaphor. If you're familiar with Christianity, you know what I'm talking about. But apparently it's all religions, and there are some like anthropologists and evolutionary scientists that think that when our ancestors lived in trees, snakes were like the one thing that would get us every time, and so it's like this instinctual fear we still have.
Yeah, snakes and spiders are such an ingrained, like, evolutionary fear that you can show infants pictures of snakes or spiders and they'll have a fear response. Okay. Which makes it so much more impressive that I'm not afraid of them at all.
That's right. You have no fear. No, the horrors will never get you.
Every noodle and everything with too many legs is a good friend.
Yes. Now, earlier I had a funny ha-ha he-he moment because I alluded to this episode of the most important lore of all time, and it was the meme thing. But there actually is something very important about Melanie when she comes back. She asks where Sasha is, and John says, "What do you mean, Sasha?" And Melanie goes, "No, I talked to your Sasha from the last time. Do you remember?" And he goes, "No, I remember. There's only one Sasha. That's her." And Melanie goes, no, the Sasha I know has, like, glasses and I think maybe was taller than the one that replaced her. And the episode ends with John freaking the fuck out. We will get to it when we record maybe next episode or 2 episodes from now. There's an episode where John freaks out, and I was kind of rolling my eyes because, like, John, why are you freaking out about this? But this is a legitimate, like, gut punch. This is like, okay, we're now going to the season finale. The pieces are in place. He finally knows.
Yes, and Melanie feeling like John is, like, making fun of her also makes it extra, like, upsetting. Because, no, there's conflict, but we know what the misunderstanding is.
That's true. I think that Melanie exemplifies a lot of pride, and I understand that you need characters with different personality traits, different flaws, different strengths, but I do think that hers in particular is a little frustrating, because, like, someone will be like, hey, can I borrow $5? And she'd be like, Goff, and the horse you rode in on. It's like, dude, buddy, it's okay.
Can I admit to something here with you?
Sure.
I can't tell Melanie and Daisy apart. I mean, where we are, we haven't gotten more Daisy. Like, spoilers, Daisy comes back later. But later on, there's a scene where they're both in a room, and I can't tell who's talking.
You said that off mic when we were going through these episodes, and I kind of was like, what do you mean? They have completely different cadences. However, the more they're on mic, the harder it is for me to tell them apart. An episode will start with one of them talking to, you know, characters. Who knows what context they'll be in. But I'll be like, oh, is this Basira? And then they'll mention something that was, like, from the last Melanie episode, and I'll be like, what? Oh, this is Melanie talking.
Yeah, quick aside before we get into the Stranger episodes.
Stranger than what?
Than you.
Oh, than fiction. Sorry.
You're such a weirdo. I had a stranger who means you harm moment in real life the other day. So I have, like, really mild autistic face blindness. Like, my sister was in a sorority and she's a blonde white girl, and everybody else in the sorority was a blonde white girl, and I was like, I know which one's my sister, but I can't tell the rest of you apart. Like, you're all the same height and the same build. You're all the same person. We had an event at work where we all had to wear the identical shirts, and even with people having different hair colors and voices, I'd walk into a room and there'd be like 3 or 4 people standing there in the same shirt, and I'd have a moment of, who the f*** is who?
Yeah.
It was really strange.
Spider-Man pointing meme kind of a thing?
Yeah.
Absolutely. So now John knows where to look. He got Gertrude's tapes. He didn't have time to kind of sort through them all before Melanie came in and just dropped a truth bomb all over him. So now the next episode we get is The Kind Mother. Let me just say, I really liked this episode.
It was a good episode.
A woman has grown apart from her mom and basically has always hated her mom. Starts visiting again after her dad had an accident that left him in a wheelchair. And then one day she shows up and there's just a different woman there who's like, I'm your mom. Of course I am. And she knows it's not, but everyone else is like, no, that's definitely your mom.
Yeah, the dad is like, I know you guys have had your differences in the past, but this isn't funny.
Yeah, like, don't make these jokes. And yeah, eventually the dad dies of carbon monoxide poisoning. Remember that, write it down, it'll be important in a later episode. We get a name drop of someone named Adelard Decker. Remember that name, it's also important. But it is interesting, you mentioned the Fae earlier, I think, in part 1 of this episode. But the mom actually explicitly knew Fae lore. and that's why she lived here. The original mom is because, oh yeah, there's a lot of Fae mythology stories that take place in this region.
Yeah, she was a professor of mythology at like a university.
Yep. And then she got by the Fae. Or the things that would later be written down as the Fae.
Yep.
And then that kind of segues nicely into the next episode. So Jonathan Sims listens to this episode, and he goes, Adelard Decker, that's a name. And I think Gertrude even says, check out case 0010011019 for more information. And John goes to that part of the archives to look for the statement. That statement isn't there, but a different statement is there that's related, but like not the file on Decker. And he goes, okay, let's listen to this one. And it's a man whose cousin gets replaced, and the cousin shows up, the fake cousin, the not cousin shows up and goes like, hey, we should hang out. Just sits in the living room and just stares at this guy for like 4 hours, and then just gets up and goes, I guess that's all the time we have for today. I'll be visiting real soon.
And then just keeps doing that for months.
Yeah, he only shows up one more time.
Oh, does he? I thought he did it a bunch of times before Decker showed up. It's been like a month since I've listened to this.
Absolutely.
Episodes.
So he leaves, and then, hang on, I wrote down the description. A black man dressed in a crisp white shirt with the sleeves rolled up and a thin necktie, whose face was hard and stern, set in a look of determination, and his short hair was iron gray. He was very thin, with aging skin stretched tight over wiry, corded muscle, and though he was slightly shorter than I was, it seemed like he towered over me. That's a lot of words to say that there's a black man who shows up like literally like 10 minutes after the not them leaves. He shows up and he's like, did you know that person that showed up? Do you know them? And the guy's like, of course I no, it was a weird monster. And he's like, yes, exactly. This is so exciting. And he sets up a trap to capture this thing. So whatever Adelard Decker is, he knows what a stranger is. And he brings a very familiar item with him. Catherine, what item did he bring with him?
It's a dig in the box. No, it's the table.
It's the table with the patterns on it.
Yes.
That you and I both thought was of the fractals because entrancing patterns, but not Sasha mentioned to John, like, I don't think they're patterns. I think it's more like a web.
Well, and we had that episode on Hilltop House, remember?
Right, yeah, where they all gathered around it and stuff.
Yeah.
Yes. It's interesting, though, that not Sasha told John, like, it's not what you think it is, it's actually of spiders. And he's like, what? But Adelard Decker brings the table. This man, the statement giver, hears like an inhuman scream, and he runs out of the house because he's like afraid. And as he's leaving, he sees a thing with like too many elbows and too long of limbs trapped in what looks like spider silk, slowly being dragged into the table. And when he comes back later, Deckard is gone. A white van whose logo couldn't quite be made out was there, and two men in overalls were taking the table away.
It's your boys.
It's my boys.
Okay, so I want you to pause right there.
Yeah.
You're John.
Yeah.
You're the archivist.
I'm very smart. I'm clever.
We assume you're capable of putting basic pieces of information together.
I've done it before.
You're worried that your employee has been replaced.
Yeah. I basically know for a fact.
And you just heard a statement where a person who was replaced was trapped in this table.
Right, yeah.
What do you do with the table?
Obviously, you have to smash the table.
No! That's wrong!
Now, I have heard the argument that depending on the type of fiction you read, you should expect characters to act a certain way. So, like, it's okay if all of your characters in horror are kind of stupid because you need that in order to make the plot happen.
Except Johnny Sims said he doesn't write that way.
Well, I don't remember him saying that. I think he did in a Q&A now that you've refreshed my memory. But the other important caveat is you can't have them be so stupid that it breaks your immersion. I know there's a lot of discourse online about Ghostbusters 2016, the all-female reboot, but in that movie they make Thor, Chris Hemsworth, so stupid that he's at like a rave and he goes, it's so loud that I can't see or something. And like, it's supposed to be that he's stupid, but he's so stupid that it's a bad joke and takes you out of it. And Jonathan Sims having this connection, but like completely it up like that is the stupidest thing he's ever done. And it's the most out of character thing he's ever done.
Yeah. And it made me so angry because like, why is that the conclusion you came to from the information you were given? It doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, we just needed a monster to show up kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So.
And, like, the not Sasha has been staring at the table for a really long time, so I guess it was because half of her was trapped in it.
Yeah, I think the strangers are entranced by it. Like, I think that they're even more unable to look away kind of a thing. And so, yeah, that seems to be it. The episode ends with Jonathan Sims being like, I found the table. I don't know if this will kill it, but it's going to hurt. And as he's smashing the table with an axe, you hear a very familiar static start to play. John doesn't recognize it because he's not listening to the recording, but he smashes it and he goes, I finally did it. I saved it. And Michael McTwisty goes, you did something very stupid. And John goes, what? And Michael McTwisty goes, you can't get out of here. There's only one entrance, and it's already coming for you. You're kind of and you hear the sound of a door opening. He goes, if only there was another way out.
It seems what you need is a door.
God, that's such an Avengers moment, you know, like Tony Stark going to the room and Nick Fury being there
Are
too.
you on, like, formal basis with him?
Yeah, but saying, you know, you thought you were the only one. Like, do you need a door? Ooh.
I love Michael McTwisty so much. If he was like, you want to go through my spooky door? I'd be like, yeah, okay.
Absolutely.
What about you? How do you feel about our creepy friend?
I love listening to him in the show, but it's another one of those things where, like, I like watching House MD. I like the way that House interacts with other characters because he's such an asshole. I would not want to meet him in real life because he's such an asshole. So Michael McTwisty, fun character in a work of fiction, not something that I would want to deal with IRL.
Yeah.
So the other thing to point out that's really interesting about this episode, Jonathan knows that he's been having a hard time with Tim and a little bit less with Martin, but they're both kind of tense. So he tells them, he's like, hey guys, I think you should take the day off. Maybe tomorrow too. You know, just I'm feeling a little under the weather. You should have the day off.
If your paranoid boss who's been acting super sketchy suddenly told you not to come into work the next day, you would be like, he's going to do a shooting, right? Like, he's going to bomb this building.
I'm having a hard time putting myself in Tim's shoes because, like, this is so outside the realm of what I've dealt with, but absolutely. So John says, you should leave because I'm feeling sick. I want you to be safe or whatever. And they're like, shouldn't you be the one leaving? He goes, no, I have some stuff to take care of here. And Tim eventually goes, you know what, boss, you're right. We will take the day off. Thanks. And he basically drags Martin out. Martin's like, wait, no, there's something else going on. And I thought for sure what it meant was that Tim figured out that there were horrors and that Jonathan was trying to protect them and they were going to help Jonathan. But actually, he thinks that Jonathan's going to do something insane, and he wants to be away from the explosion. He doesn't want to get hurt.
Good for you, Tim.
But then Martin's like, we should help him, and Tim's like, I guess so, and gets kind of dragged into this mess.
For all of you John Martin shippers out there, you're wrong. Tim Martin is the correct Martin ship, and John Elias is the correct John ship, and I will not brook arguments to the contrary. Joel knows.
Also, Daisy and Basira talk about being each other's partners, and I don't think that they meet on the Force.
Nope.
That's not the vibes.
They're partners. Daisy is only soft for Basira.
Absolutely.
Do you think Melanie can join them as, like, a throuple situation? Or is Melanie just, like,
are you just shipping them because they're all women?
doomed to be alone? Well, it's just like a girl power moment.
Okay, yeah. It's that scene from Endgame with all of the women lining up.
They're also, like, holding hands. Make it out a little bit, I don't know.
So, the hide-and-seek episode. Love that episode title.
Probably one of the creepiest episodes of this show. I was so tense the whole time we were listening to it.
The way they did, like, the voice distortion for not Sasha, the way that it felt like those Eldritch Horror Garfield comics, where this is the entity that's coming to get you, and John's like, please no, please. They're even both named John Arbuckle and Jonathan Sims.
Have I shared one of my favorite Joel quotes about the John Garfield thing?
I'm pretty sure you haven't.
Okay. Joel once said that he doesn't like the creepy Garfield comic edits.
No, they're bad. I don't like them.
Because they make him feel sad.
That's John and Garfield. That's a man and his cat, and you're going to turn into this weird...
so cute? Isn't that the cutest thing you guys have ever heard?
It sounds like she's making fun of me, but she isn't. This is how she expresses...
I genuinely think he's adorable. But so spooky. And then, of course, while he's running from not Sasha in the tunnels, Tim and Martin end up Michael'd.
Yeah, so they show up and they're like, I think we're alone down here. And Michael shows up and goes, no, you aren't. And they turn to look at him and they're like, we can take you. There's two of us and there's only one of you. And he goes, no. And Tim notices that there's something wrong with his hands. It's an audio medium, so it's not explicitly said, but probably too long is the impression I got. And they run into a door because it's the only way that they can run from him. And Michael is pretty sure what he's about to witness is the archivist being murdered, and he wants to see how well John can do on his own without help. And also, he believes that this is what you would call a sport. He says that. He's like, I think this is a sport.
I love Michael so much.
Yeah.
If I were free to live my feral, unmasked life, I think that's what I would be like.
Okay.
Not trapping people in spooky labyrinths, just, somebody would be like, leave, and I'd go, no?
That's his catchphrase at this point. If someone says something somewhat reasonable or makes a demand, and he just laughs and goes, no? Anyways, we wanted to be brief talking about these episodes. Let's talk about...
We've already done our succinct summaries, so this is your in-depth.
I see the in-depth one. I have a quote here from John. This is frantic. So, by the way, this episode is called Hide and Seek. John goes into the door that Michael gave him. He shows up somewhere else in the tunnels underneath the archives. He doesn't know which way is out, and he doesn't know where not Sasha is. He feels that she can sense him somehow, which is really interesting. Can she sense him... specifically because he's the one who broke the table, or is there something about him that makes him kind of glowy in the eyes of the horrors? He's trying to run away, trying to keep quiet, but he just can't help himself. He's like an addict with that stupid microphone or whatever, the recorder, that's what you call it. But he says, of course the table was binding it. The table is webs and spiders. Spiders are something else. They don't help each other. They oppose. They weaken. So, confirmed that the horrors are not friends with each other. Some of them might be
these
friends.
two horrors.
Well,
I think the way it was set up in a circle, if we were able to go into the room and, label each of the hallways, I think the opposing ones are on opposite sides of the circle, like a color wheel.
Right, there's the big spaces and there's the closed spaces. Those two don't get along, but I think there are some that are kind of closely related. We are all meat... and let's beat the shit out of each other. I don't know. Those two feel simpatico to me. You could just beat the crap out of what is just a pile of meat.
You want them to beat your meat? Is that what you're saying?
That's not what I'm saying.
Live on this podcast.
The other thing that I like about this not Sasha kind of toying with its food is it confirms that the eye is its enemy. It says something about, in this place, the stronghold of my enemy, or something like that. Okay, very nice. Not Sasha confirms that its only goal is to strike terror in the hearts of people. This is something that I think you, the audience, are supposed to be putting together that John takes a long time to figure out, but it's another clue. And then Not Sasha also remarks that John is not as impressive as his predecessor. Does that suggest that Not Sasha specifically met Gertrude? Do they have an individual personality, or are they connected to all the others?
Connected. You remember when Michael said, does your arm own your stomach? I think that this is one instance of the stranger, and the stranger has encountered Gertrude.
Yeah, what was Gertrude doing?
Around.
I guess.
I will say, from everything we've seen of Gertrude up to this point in the show, and then the things you and I have seen later... Not Sasha is correct. Gertrude is much more impressive than John. John's just a little guy. I thought he was smart. I said this earlier. I thought he was smart. The British accent had me fooled. But he's just a little guy, just like everybody else. He puts his pants on one leg at a time, but Gertrude backflips into them and just lands perfectly in her pants.
You think she started out like that, or do you think that was a recent development?
I think she was born that way. I think she came out of the womb as a 65-year-old woman with a talent for handling explosives.
So it's definitely not Maybelline, is what you're saying. She was born with it.
Correct.
Okay. Now, is that everything that you want to say about the hide and seek episode?
I think so.
Now
you know what? Before we move on to episode 80, we have to say, earlier when John was exploring the tunnels, he found evidence that somebody might have been living there, and also at one point there was a voice that was like, "Fuck off!" And somebody was messing with his arrows. So now in episode 80, who does he encounter?
he encounters Jurgen Leitner, which is, a big deal, because we've heard this guy's name once or twice
That's
throughout
the
this
book
podcast.
guy, the source of all evil.
Yes, absolutely. Voiced by Johnny Sims' real-life dad, and I ship him and Gertrude not just because their voice actors are actually married to each other, but also just the way that Leitner talks about, Gertrude, you wouldn't have liked Jonathan Sims, but he's also a lot like you. It just felt the way that you would talk to your deceased wife or husband or partner.
So, it's a man and a woman can be in a ship?
Yes.
Really?
Apparently.
I thought it could only be, two men or two ladies, but you could do, a het ship.
Yes.
That's wild. Continue.
I want you, from memory, to try and tell me what happens in this episode. You don't have to get a blow-by-blow, but just, more descriptive than me saying statement of Jurgen Leitner.
John says, "Tell me what's going on," and Leitner says, "I found out there were spooky books, and I wanted to collect them all so I could be I'm protecting humanity by having all the spooky books. But the things that control the spooky books went, those are ours, and we need them to strike fear into the hearts of men, so they ate all my assistants, and I've been on the run since."
Yes. He put up a bunch of defenses to make sure that the horrors couldn't get out, but it was super easy for the horrors to get in. He only thought that the horrors took the form of books and sometimes the occasional curios. Turns out that there are agents of the whatever, so he got prenticed. He mentioned that there was someone who went into a door that wasn't there. There was a giant hand that snatched someone else. There was a room full of darkness. There was a fire that wouldn't go out.
There's a mouth.
There was a mouth that opened and swallowed someone, which I think is, that's the claustrophobia one. But so
Interesting.
Isn't it? I mean, if it was a mouth with teeth, that was probably the meat horror or whatever.
Yeah.
But if it was just an opening that kind of looked like a mouth and it was rocks and then it crushed you.
No, I assumed it was teeth because we've seen that same mouth in a previous episode.
Oh yeah, we did with the Bone Turner guy. And then we saw a thing with fingers like knives, I think, whose teeth were too sharp. And in the Q&A for this season, someone asks, is that the thing we saw in the Appalachian Mountains, the werewolf? And Johnny had to talk around it, but he basically said they're brothers. So they're not the same entity, but they're closely related, which is very interesting.
Cool. Yeah. So what I'm getting from this is don't with the horrors, my guy.
Yeah.
Don't fancy yourself a hero. Just put distance between yourself and the horrors.
Yes. Well, and the other thing, too, about the horrors that we find out from him is that they are these weird entities that exist kind of next to our world, but not in it. Their books and the people who serve them are extensions of their power trying to come through. But we found out that they might all be part of the same entity, but they act in kind of distinct ways, and that's how you get the different horrors that we see. So it's a little bit like Michael McTwistie's Does Your Hand Own Your Stomach? These are all part of possibly one being, but they do drastically different things.
Their true existence couldn't function in the universe we live in, at least not now.
At least not as it is now.
That's spooky as hell. What did you think that meant the first time you heard it?
I think what it means is that there's a way to change the universe so that they can live in the universe. If you've ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, I'm pretty sure one of the books, maybe it's just an individual chapter, opens with there's a theory that if you learn the truth of the universe, it will implode upon itself and be recreated in a stranger way. There's another theory that states that this has already happened multiple times. And so that's kind of what I imagine. Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy rules, maybe the world we live in is more meat-based than the previous version. And the more meat monster comes through, the more meat there will be.
I'm listening.
But no, I put that quote in the notes and I bolded it because that feels like it's important. And I also think that what's important in each season finale is setting up the story for the next one. So in the first season, we got attacked by bugs, but we also got Sasha being replaced, and that ended up being kind of the overarching plot of season 2. And now we have Leitner telling us like what the horrors are, and that feels like setup as well. Mm-hmm. But he doesn't just describe the horrors. There's a part 2, in my opinion, of this episode. What else happens?
So, you remember earlier when I said Elias maybe had a little bit of a...
Like a hot girl summer?
Yeah, just like, a hot girl moment. So he came down while John was outside for a smoke.
And it's also been confirmed at this point that he seems to have power over the Institute.
Yes. And he went... You're the one Gertrude was talking to down in the tunnels. I didn't know who she was talking to, but I suspected it was someone I didn't want in my institute, and then he just bonks him.
Yeah, beats him with a metal pipe.
Which he leaves there, and then he leaves, and John comes back and finds Leitner's corpse and just flees.
Yeah, well, and... I mean, I don't know if Elias was wearing a glove. They didn't have a piece of dialogue that was like, please stop beating with the metal pipe while you're wearing the gloves that will hide your fingerprints from the pipe that you're beating me with. But Jonathan is the one who brought the pipe into the room. He's the one that brought Leitner into this room. Leitner kept being like, we can't talk here. It's
right.
dangerous.
John was carrying the pipe to protect himself from Sasha.
It was the best weapon he had at the time. And so it very much looks like Jonathan Sims killed this random man.
Now... This is, again, a moment where Jonathan Sims was a goddamn dumbass. Do innocent people run from the cops? Or would you call the police when you found the dead body and be like, I know it looks bad, but I just found him like this?
I think the problem is that the police don't like to investigate the horrors or anything related to the Magnus Institute. And he was also told that Elias has the power to change the CCTV footage to show what he wants it to show. I think he basically ran from the horror of the situation rather than the fact that it would look like he did the murder. But Tim shows up and he's like, yeah, I knew this was going to happen. He already had lost enough trust in John that he thinks that John did it without any evidence to the without looking into it at all. He was just like, this must be what happened.
And Martin's just like, no, there's a dead guy. I'm just a little baby boy. I've never done anything wrong in my life.
That's absolutely true. I mentioned earlier there was a quote. I can't remember which. It was Agnes Montague and Diego Molina are dead, and hopefully they don't cause any more problems, which I said is a recurring thing that keeps coming up. In this episode, when Leitner and Elias are having their little tete-a-tete, Leitner basically says, like, he says, what will Jonathan think if he finds me killed by your hand? And Elias goes, well, he had to leave the nest at some point. Basically, like, Jonathan was going to go on an adventure now, so why not frame him for murder and get that adventure going? And Leitner says he might die. And Elias says, it's always a danger. He kind of pauses in a way that lets us know that he's kind of thinking, and he goes, almost always. So there's something...
Elias can't die.
There's something going on with death, or there's something going on with, like, cheating death, or, like, if you become an avatar of the creatures, something happens, you're harder to kill, I don't know. But, yeah.
Cool. So those have been the episodes, and then we listened to the Q&A.
I don't remember basically anything from the Q&A.
The big standout from the Q&A was, is Martin going to be okay? Ha! No.
Yeah.
So, I'm sorry to all you Martin fans out there. We can just say goodbye to this baby.
It wasn't laughter and then no. It was, is Martin going to be okay? And Johnny Sims goes, let me just be super clear so you all understand. No. No one's going to be okay. Yeah. Poor Martin.
And then the other thing was, we were kind of wondering, John's on the run, how's he going to do statements? And I thought he was going to travel around the world and, like, take statements of people that, like, Gertrude had talked to or something. He was gonna go on a global adventure with Melanie, which is not quite what it ends up happening. We'll talk about it in our next episode. But basically, Johnny Sims was like, it will still be one episode, one statement.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. So, okay, you just explained what you thought it was. So you thought every episode was going to be Jonathan Sims taking statements from people. Did you think that the Magnus Institute was just not going to be part of the next season?
Yeah, I thought maybe we'd get, like, sound clips of, like, John on the phone with Elias or something.
I see. So this season introduced the supplementals, which are Jonathan's kind of like notes to himself or notes to anyone who finds his bloodied, mangled corpse in the tunnels. And so I think it would be interesting if they had done something like that, where instead of supplementals, we got life at the office in the Magnus Institute, and then season 4 could be Jonathan comes back or whatever, and all of these changes have happened, and it's because of all of the development that we saw that he didn't know anything about.
Absolutely. Can you imagine the f***ed up Parks and Rec that the Magnus Institute would make? I'd watch that show. That sounds great.
Of course you would. It's written well enough that they could absolutely do something like that.
Was there anything else about this batch of episodes that you wanted to call out in particular?
I want to do a segment that I call Let's Take Stock of the Horrors.
I agree. I think we should put that at the very end.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so just kind of discussion time. We know now who killed Gertrude, and we know...
We suspect we know who killed Gertrude.
We know who killed Gertrude. Once you show a guy just beating someone to death with a pipe, it's not hard to imagine that same guy shooting somebody.
Yeah, well, and Leitner seems like he's one of the people, did I literally say this earlier? He's one of the people in the know, so if he has a guess about something, he's probably close.
Yeah,
you know?
So, like, what do you think is the big mystery moving forward that we're trying to solve?
I think, we have foreknowledge, but I think it makes sense if something from these episodes is setting up for the plot of season 3, I think it would be figuring out if Elias was the one who killed Leitner and or
Gertrude.
What?
You said Leitner.
No, Leitner. Like, Tim and Martin don't know that Elias killed.
Yeah. Okay, I thought you meant us, the viewer.
Oh, no. But I think it's also, how do you defeat Elias? Because he has the power to seemingly control stuff within the Institute. He seems to know things. And so, I think he's the threat that they're going to deal with.
I think the big mystery we have to solve now is, like, not just who killed Gertrude, but, like, why? And then on top of that, what was Gertrude trying to do? Because, like, we know she was buying Leitners. We know she was buying plastic explosives. We know she was traveling the world and just blowing up buildings, so...
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and it is important in shows like this to have someone who knows more of the larger plot, so it's not just a bunch of people fumbling in the dark. And Gertrude seems to have already figured out a lot of stuff. Leitner even says, like, John goes, "What are these horrors you're talking about?" And Leitner goes, "I thought you'd have figured that out by now. You're supposed to be a level 3 squire, but you're only level 2. That's too bad."
He needs more breaths to unlock those awakenings.
Absolutely. We need to do a Warbreaker episode. But... do you have were you surprised that Melanie came back and became a character?
Yes.
Okay.
I forgot that she existed and mattered. I suspect somebody went, "Hey, you don't have very many female characters, especially now that you've killed off Sasha." And they went, "You right, though." And they introduced Basira and Daisy and Melanie, who, spoilers, will be recurring characters. I don't know that Melanie coming back has substantially added anything to the story, except now there's a new person there.
Here's something that I'll say about the expanding cast of characters. Like, the expanding cast of seemingly human characters that seemingly care about fighting the horrors. Agnes Montague did not care about fighting the horrors, and she wasn't a person. She wasn't a human. But I think that in a horror setting, you need to have a couple of extra bodies lying around. If those 3 become recurring characters, and we have Jonathan and his 2 remaining assistants, and we found out that Gertrude had assistants, exactly 3, the same number as Jonathan. History runs in cycles. We're going to find out that Gertrude was actually the father of the 2nd Hokage. And then we're going to find out that Jonathan is the brother of the 4th Hokage, and it's all tied cosmically together.
You know how the Dutchman must always have a captain?
Yeah.
The Institute must always have a head and an archivist, and so when they destroy Elias, John is going to become the head of the Institute, and Martin will be his archivist.
Okay. I got distracted because ADHD is a hell of a drug. My point is that by having 6 or 7 main characters, Now you got a couple that can take a bullet or get stabbed by a mysterious ghost scalpel or whatever. Melanie's off to India, so who knows what kind of incidents are going to happen there. Basira and Daisy for sure has more stories that she hasn't told us about, like, incidents that have happened. This is just, I really like this show. And I like that they knew where the story was going. Anyone who's talked to me about Supernatural will know I love the first 5 seasons. They all beautifully flow into one another, and they culminate in the ultimate journey that echoes how it started. It's really well written. I really like the way that Way of Kings, the Stormlight Archives, are written. I really like Gravity Falls and Owl House. I don't know how much of their plot was written in advance, but I think they had a pretty good idea.
Gravity Falls, almost certainly.
Right. But this show just gives me the type of energy that, like, I know when we get to I'm confident when we get to the end, there will be answers, and it'll all make sense. We can go back and we can listen to the first time Gertrude is on tape, and she'll say something like, I like my tea cold. And then we're going to find out that there's a secret underground resistance of people where I like my tea cold is like their call sign to one another.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, I like your shoelaces.
Thanks, I got them from the president. Now can I talk about the horrors?
Yes,
talk about the horrors?
Please do Whomsd'tve the Horrors. Give us our roundup to close out the podcast.
So what I want to do... Wait, what about the memes?
Oh, I guess we could do our memes, our letters from the crew, our statements. I don't know what we're calling that.
Yeah, well, and these aren't even people who wrote into our show. These are just funny comments that we saw in the YouTube video. I love this one, though. I've only had Mary Kaey for 22 minutes, but if anything happened to her, I would throw a party.
You know what's crazy? I read that one when we were talking about the Mary Kaey episode earlier.
What?
I did. I read it.
What? No, you read... Huh. Okay, well,
Anyway,
I guess...
give us our other memes. They're all good.
The only other meme on here that we haven't already talked about is... This plot's becoming a little complicated. I think I'm going to have to write down a couple of pieces of information. Ah, shit, now I'm the archivist. It's happening to all of us.
Do you get a spooky feeling you're being watched while listening to this podcast?
No.
Oh, good. You haven't noticed the cameras.
Now... Whomsd'tve the Horrors. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and talk about known entities specifically from information that we have been told. Or is a recurring motif that you'd have to be kind of a dum-dum to not notice.
I'm a dum-dum.
Sometimes we are both dum-dums, but I think we can figure this one out. The spiral / it which lies / to the distortion, literally the gaslight monster, it wants you to doubt your senses. That was directly confirmed by Leitner. And as far as I know, we only have one instance of that horror. It's Michael McTwisty. He seems to be running the show on his own, with no help from anything else. We have the stranger, that which is familiar made wrong. Gertrude talked about the stranger, explicitly called out the stranger as its name. Leitner talked about it. We have Breakin and Hope. They have weird, like, skin that doesn't quite fit, and they, like, talk between each other. We have the circus, and we have the clown from the circus.
You ever look in the mirror and go, those aren't my hands? That's the stranger.
Very interesting. A mirror episode would be fascinating. We kind of had that with the last season where there was the girl or the woman who saw herself in the... Anyways.
But like a even spookier mirror episode.
Yeah. Leitner also mentioned slaughter and butchery, which I think fits with the music guy. You listen to his music and you suddenly do horrible violence against one another. And then the smell of blood patient episode, there was an excerpt written about a guy who was on the train that derailed, who basically says, I think that if you do too much violence, it wounds the soul. And it's like this long paragraph that basically is saying, yeah, war and hurting other people is the horrors. Leitner mentioned the messy physicality of flesh. That's just the Hans, right?
Yeah. That's also exactly how ace people describe
Oh, yeah.
activities, yeah. This person, anyway. I don't know about other people.
We have many, many, many mentions of spiders. You would have to be a dum-dum to not notice that spiders are coming up. Jonathan also mentions, like, spiders or something else.
But what do lollipops have to do with not noticing? A dum-dum is a type of lollipop.
Yeah. Darkness has been mentioned in various situations. Darkness. We have Maxwell Ringer and his group, the People's Church of the Divine Host. And then we also have Ni Alasund, which is a city in Norway. It's like on an island in Norway, and it's the northernmost human settlement on Earth, except for research installations where during the winter, nights can basically be all day.
I know how to stop Maxwell Rayner.
Okay.
With an umbrella.
Yeah? Can you explain?
Rayner? It would rain less under an umbrella.
You're tired. Go to sleep. I put fire ? I don't know if there's a name. We don't have a name for like the entity that they serve, but we know that fire has shown up multiple times. We know that Agnes had a little group that met that all had fire-based kind of whatever. Jonathan calls them the Cult of the Lightless Flame. But we also know Agnes Montague and Diego Molina were members. We have the eye/beholding. We have various references. Leitner straight up tells us. As far as we can tell, the only instance of that, of like a person or an entity, is Elias and the Magnus Institute. But the Magnus Institute has been around earlier than Elias, so Elias is just the latest Hokage in the succession of Hokages. Naruto episode when?
When Naruto is a good show worth my time.
Oh, wow, okay,
No,
yeah.
we did a Naruto episode.
Yeah, we did an April Fool's episode, I remember now.
Bleach episode when Bleach is a good show that's worth my time.
The new anime supposedly has really beautiful animation.
How are the female characters treated, Joel?
The Hive, which is bugs and disease. I think the Hive is the name of the entity that took over Prentice. I don't think it's the name of the big entity, but
Agreed.
whatever. Prentice and Amherst are two people to look out for that. We don't have a specific place or an organization like we do with the Fairchilds and the big space. Which brings me on to number 10, space! But not always literally, but sometimes literally. And the one we get from that is Michael Crew, Michael Mixed Sky Daddy, or the Fairchilds. Those are the two big ones that we've seen. And I think there's a company that the Fairchilds own, but I don't remember what it's called. It doesn't come up a lot.
More like the Scarechilds, because you're so spooked of falling.
We have various references to claustrophobia, but we don't have a person that represents claustrophobia or any kind of like recurring group.
There was that guy in the Autistic Woman Gets on a Train episode where she saw someone carrying a shovel and he said some activation phrase to her before she got on the train. So he's probably the claustrophobia guy.
Right. We just haven't met him. We don't have a
Right.
name like we have Agnes Montague or whatever. We have the End, which is explicitly mentioned by Mary Kaey. There's the Book of the Dead that you can trap people's souls in. But there also is the Dreamer episode 10, I think, 9, something like that. That was a person who had dreams that showed him when people were going to die. It feels like it's the same energy.
Agreed.
And then there's the guy who had there's the Book of the Dead where you trap people's souls, and then there's the Book of the You're Going to Die that tells you that you're going to die. Also, we didn't talk about this. This is so fascinating. The first time he opened it, it's like, hey, you're going to die in like the year 2020. And he's like, holy shit, that's like 10 years from now, but I have 10 years. But then the next time he looked, it was like, you're going to die in 2019. And he went, what? And every time he looked, his death got closer and closer. Anyways, and then the last one that I have written here is loneliness. We got the tourist episode, we got the Lucas family specifically seems to be friends with that, and we have the boat episode that also explicitly mentions being lonely. Now, we saw 14 tunnels in an earlier episode, and I hypothesized that one of those is just like a normal-ass tunnel to get into the area. Do you think there are 14 horrors, or do you think there are 13 horrors?
13.
Okay. 13 is a spooky number.
A spooky number. Yeah, well, and like you said, I think that from the information we have, there's the one tunnel to get in, and then there's the 13 that are actually associated.
Consider also, though, supernatural. Maybe you're supposed to just happen into one of the spooky tunnels, and as you run away, you run into the other 13.
Now, I have to ask you, Joel, having outlined all of these for me, do any of these entities speak to you? Do you feel as though you could be an associate?
No.
Okay. I speak to the werewolf entity.
Okay.
I could be part of whatever that one's got going on.
The knives for hands guy.
Yeah, I think that's sick.
Michael McKnife for
I learned
hands.
how to make finger claws out of paper in Bible camp as a kid, and I ran around all summer wearing them and going, finger knives!
You
And
can do that with
everybody-
bugles, too, and then you can eat them.
That's gross. Anyway, I could also vibe with the big sky. Different kinds of vibing, though. Like with the werewolf one, I, too, could be a werewolf and sing spooky hunting songs in the woods to freak out men. For the big sky one, I just would like to take a big old nap up there. I would just like to, just fall forever. No responsibilities, no thoughts, just air. I was going to say that make this joke earlier, but we moved on. But I ride motorcycles, and that's just horizontal falling. And I really like it.
Oh my gosh. You made the neurons activate. I had another thing that I want to talk about. Second reference to Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. In Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, anyone can fly. It's really easy. You just gotta fall and then miss the ground. That's how you fly. It's really easy.
Barely an inconvenience.
Barely an inconvenience. It turns out that the way it it's really easy to describe it as falling and missing, but how the main character does it, spoilers, it's absurdist humor, who cares? But it turns out that what happens is if you have too many things happening on in your head, you forget to fall, and that's how you start flying. But if you're in a state of flying and you think to yourself, shouldn't I be falling? There's a line in there that says, like, if you ask yourself that question, gravity will glance sharply in your direction and you'll plummet. And I realized that's what the horrors are. Like, the moment you are scared of something, the horrors turn and look at you. They're like, we've got to get this guy. We've got to get this gal. We've got to get this person.
Yes, we've absolutely got to get you. The big sky is good. The spooky werewolf one is good. I could enjoy the spiral. I think that in terms of things I really can't do, whatever the fire demons are, nope. Burning alive is very concerning for me. Can't do anything to do with bugs or illness or any of that.
You like some bugs, but not like becoming bugs.
I don't want them in me.
Right, yeah, absolutely.
And I couldn't do the claustrophobia one.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I think I'd be susceptible to so many of these.
I think every single one on that list. How do you feel about the dark? I don't think you're afraid of the dark.
The dark is spooky, but it's less spooky than a lot of the other ones. Yeah, for sure. And I think that has been your final thoughts.
Ah! Sorry, it's just you. I thought it was somebody I didn't know.
For a second, you looked slightly taller than you normally do.
Well, friends, all journeys must end. And now today's journey has finished, and we must bid you goodbye. We hope you have a good day. We hope you were kind to those around you, and we'll see you again. If you want to contact the show, you can do so at kingofthewhatpod@gmail.com. You can leave a comment on our YouTube channel or rate us on your podcatcher of choice.